and yeah, maybe a touch conservative in the first half. They opened up in the second half. They did get their equaliser.
رسميا كلشي ولا واعي بالقوه ديال لا كرياسيون ديال اون مارك وما بقيناش كنهضروا على واش خصك تخدم اي كوميرس نورمال ولا تبني اون مارك بلي نورم ديالها حيت في لي كوميرس المستقبل هو تبني اون مارك بغيتي ولا كرهتي حيت ديك السلعه ديال الشينوا اللي كلشي عارف لا كاليتي ديالها وكلشي كيبيع ويشري فيها كتقتل البرودوي حيت لا كونكورونس طالعه وإلا كنتي انت كتسمع ليا دابا في هذا الفيديو الا وانت واحد من هاد جوج الناس سامع على لي كوميرس ويلاه ناوي تبدا
It's no disgrace to be having such a good record against Manchester City. And in top 6 games under Mikel Arteta, and to be picking up a point against them now in the grand scheme of things, especially in the circumstances of what happened in that match. And like Arsenal are, by the looks of it, going to be up there this season. They need to start converting some of these big matches from draws or defeats into wins, yes. But I don't think it's anywhere near as dramatic as a lot of people are making out. I don't think they're far off. I do think they can do it under Mikel Arteta, and some who are going to the extreme of saying any other manager would have, be making this team into, multiple title winners, Premier League, Champions League, domestic cups. I just don't think that's realistic. And so, yeah, nothing's perfect. Mikel Arteta may have some regrets about it, but I don't think it was a disaster that it seems to be being portrayed in some quarters. And if it is, that is testament to how far Arsenal under Arteta have come and the shift in expectations that surrounds them.
Yeah, does that level of expectation also change, Adam, with the likes of Gyökeres obviously coming in? Arsenal have needed that number 9 for ages, and you can't help but see Erling Haaland just peel off beautifully and score that lovely goal. I mean, there is a comparison to be made, but perhaps a little too early because Gyökeres is probably just still finding his feet in the Premier League.
In some ways, yes, but in other ways, I don't think anyone can really imagine Gyökeres ever being at the level of Haaland. I don't think that's an unfair. Haaland's level is just so high that it's hard to imagine Gyökeres, as good as he may end up being that good. I mean, like the sprint he did yesterday for the goal, like when his head goes down, it was like a racehorse, like entering the final furlong, sprint, sort of going beyond everyone else. It was incredible. Yeah, I think. I just that comparison I struggle with. I don't think also being a centre forward for Arsenal is so easy. They're not a team that create in these big games a lot of chances. They've not really made a chance for him in any of these big games so far this season. And it's yes, okay. Sometimes you want a striker to just a bit like Haaland yesterday, kind of make something happen. But the way Manchester City was set up, yesterday wasn't just about Arsenal. It was also about the way Man City set up in the game. Meant there was never really that space that emerged for Arsenal, apart from bizarrely, like deep into added time where City's line went so high. And then you had that space in behind that Martinelli benefited from. I guess I think the frustration for people comes from the fact that you can see Arteta doing all this brilliant work, and you can see the progress of the team, and you're just there either as a neutral or I imagine as an Arsenal fan just being like, just go that final 2%, 5%, because they're so close. They're so close. You look at the quality that they now have across their squad, and it does just feel like they're holding back in some way, like they're not sort of emptying everything onto the pitch. I don't mean they're not committed or determined. It's just, are they doing absolutely everything in their powers, in their talent powers, to unlock these games? And I'm not sure that they necessarily are. And I don't think that means, I don't think it means like you change the manager or anything dramatic like that. It's just, can the manager just find that balance? Because ultimately, with the defence, you've basically got 4 centre-backs playing often. You've got at least 2 holding midfielders. So, like, could you put an Eze in from the start in a central position instead of Mourinho maybe? Would that be such a, because probably if Odegaard was fit, he would play instead of Mourinho, you would think, right? In that game. So you could play Eze in that position. Maybe it's just if it was 3 weeks later and Eze had been at the club a couple more weeks, he would start, who we'll see in time to come. But I think it's that kind of thing that Arsenal fans look at maybe and just think, come on.
But where does that come from, though? Where does that come from, Adam? Like, where they're going to get that from? It has to be the manager. Surely it has to be the coaching staff to say, lads, just go out there and take some risks.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of that. I think it was a really interesting press conference from what I saw after the game where I don't think Arteta liked the question he was asked about I think he was asked about the 3-man midfield and can you explain, why you set up that way? I think the journalists were looking for a kind of a line, in terms of, this is the thing people are talking about. Let's hear Arteta talk about it. But I think they're probably also looking for insight into the way he thinks about this and why he feels it's so necessary in these big games. And he didn't really give an answer. It was a kind of, maybe he did in other interviews, I didn't see everything he did on TV, but it's certainly in the press conference, it seemed like it grated on him to be asked about it. He then sort of said something like, well, you didn't ask about it when we won in Bilbao the other night, which is a fair point. But it had that kind of slightly aloof air that coaches sometimes take on when things haven't quite gone right in a game, where they really don't actually want to be asked anything technical or tactical. Then if we'd have asked something about something silly off the pitch, they don't want to talk about that either at times. So sometimes, coaches do sort of just become a bit spiky in those circumstances. And I think maybe that's an indication that Arteta knows, he'll have known that all the post-match yesterday would have been, people like Jamie Carragher, Roy Keane, Gary Neville saying, Arsenal need to take a risk, Arsenal need to win these games, Arteta needs to do more. And I'm sure he'll be very conscious of that.
A really good point, and many managers would have reacted to that question, like Adam points out. I always feel in these situations, and I don't want to play down the level of experience of the former players or of insight of people that work in our part of the industry or the intelligence of the public and fan base. But I also, for that token, understand how managers are sitting there basically being told that everybody knows better than them when we're sat in our armchairs and we're sort of pontificating over their profession and their training and studying and working on this from a physical, literal data perspective every day of the week. And that doesn't mean they're perfect by any means, but they're better qualified to judge than us. And if you say, oh, well, some of these managers become a bit blinkered at times or too wedded to a certain style or system, then they need to be challenged by their assistants and maybe even their sporting directors ahead of us. Now, we're perfectly entitled to, but we're not as well placed to know everything that goes on here. And it was a really interesting point Adam made when he said it looks like to Arsenal fans. So a lot of this is optics. So they want a swashbuckling performance. They want, even you said it there, Io, why don't they just go and take another risk? It's not quite that simple when you're playing anybody, let alone a Manchester City and Liverpool, the two examples we use here. Manchester City were sort of encamped in their own half last night, not easy against any opposition, let alone one of such high level, who seemed to ditch in that instance the way they play. Even Pep said it after the game. That's not what he wants to see from his team. And so you've got this vision, if you're Arsenal fans or the public, when you see all the transfers and all the attacking talent they have at their disposal. And why aren't they just going hell for leather? Just let loose, unleash the shackles. And then you've got the history of what Arsenal fans have seen, which is when they've won titles under Wenger, it was pretty free-flowing. Even when they were losing, they went for it at Highbury, in particular with your Thierry Henrys and your Dennis Bergkamps and Lundbergs and Pires and Vieiras, and they found ways through. and many of us remember it. Then you look at the optics of who wears the number 14 now. It's Gyökeres, who's an extremely high-level striker who's already made an impact for them in a way that strikers in the Premier League so far, who are also new to it, haven't. And also people are giving lots of time to certain other players in the Premier League, but they don't seem to be giving that to Gyökeres, the analysis over every performance. And maybe part of it is because it's Arsenal and the expectation and the pressures. Maybe it's because of that number 14 on his back, and you're used to seeing, if you're an Arsenal fan of a certain vintage, Thierry Henry, or even an Aubameyang. And in Henry's case, the most graceful and prolific and damaging of players, with goal-scoring records and such. I always think back to him being like almost swan-like in the way he glided through, or ballerina-like in the way his athleticism merged eventually, over time, by the way, with goals and trophies ultimately. And Gyökeres is a completely different type of player, and so he's not, this halcyon vision of somebody sort of being really easy on the eye of everyone might be a bit different to the reality of that he's going to score goals. Adam pointed out that the service, that's an incredibly important factor in all of this. He was served by Eze in their previous home game on a plate, and he finished. He also did try and create for himself when he ran round the back, you'll remember, and then crashed a shot against the post. Apart from that, he hasn't had a huge... I can't remember any glaring chances he's missed. He was in Leeds, in the Leeds game, I think he was wrong-footed in one incident, and it happened again yesterday when there was a deflection off the foot of a Man City player, and he was slightly ahead of the ball. But I've not seen him do anything wrong. Thierry Henry himself actually picked up on Bilbao how when he was sent clear, his first touch wasn't as good as it should have been. It should have put him through on goal, and it took him wide, and he got snuffed out. But we're really picking over fine margins here, and so yeah, there's the risk taking. That's such a basic point, and I don't disagree with it. But there is so much more to it.
But don't you think that, it was just even listening to you then, like the way you're talking about players from 20 years ago and the excitement that's coming through from your voice, I think actually, I'm not putting words in your mouth here, but it just the kind of stirring that you just had thinking about those games kind of underlines that, yes, they just felt a bit underwhelming, and you're craving those moments again, right? You're craving some players to take those risks and be allowed to take those risks. And instead, what we often see, and Arsenal get huge praise for this, I've praised them for this, and it's important, the set pieces.
This AI tool will take your idea and create a complete book, complete with design, images, layout, everything, including the content, literally in a few minutes. Watch this. So I'm using Designer, which will import content from your blog, from a Google Doc or a Word doc, or even a YouTube, depending on the plan you choose. For now, I'm going to use Word Genie, the AI feature. So all I need to do is give it an idea and then click on next. And then just tell Word Genie what audience am I targeting my book towards. Then it'll just show me a selection of titles, which I'll just choose one that catches my eye. Then it'll suggest the outline for my book, which I'm free to edit as I see fit. And now the magic happens. It will generate the full content of the ebook ready for me to edit, tweak and tune. And obviously I want to make it my own so it comes across and reads really, really well. And so from here now it's saved as a draft, or I can simply choose a template. And there are hundreds of templates to choose from, and all of these are totally customizable. You can change anything, the images, the style, any of the text, whatever you want. So this one looks perfect for my niche, passion, grit and success. All these images can be changed once I'm in the editor, and I can see I could do worksheets, I could do all sorts within this template. So now you can see all my content from my draft has been pulled into this template, and all the content's been laid out into single column, double column, images have been put in the right place. But of course I can now customize and change anything. So if I don't like a chapter heading page, perhaps that image doesn't work for me, I can search my inbuilt image search tool and just select another image and it will just load it just like that. Any adjustments to the layout, to the style, I can just do with a couple of clicks. On the right, you can see all my navigation there, all laid out. And again, just changing images is just a few clicks, including the layout. You know, if I don't want a double column layout and I want a single column, then I can just change it. And of course I could do that manually as well, but it's a lot faster to use the inbuilt presets that are all set up, because, you know, within a few minutes, I've got my whole ebook all done and ready for publishing. So all that's left now for me to click publish, and it produces this beautiful PDF all ready to go. Or I can just click another button and select flipbook, and I've got a flipbook which I can share.
But it does slow the game down. You know, the long throws, the corners. Like yesterday, there's 11 corners in the game. Great, Arsenal are getting corners. And every time they get one, if Arsenal aren't your team, you're there basically crapping yourself thinking, what are they going to do here? But from a momentum of the game perspective, it's not fast enough at times when they're attacking or when they're chasing a game. And there are times where I watch them and I think, surely you're better than like attempting long throws when you're chasing a game trying to win the Premier League. And I know every team is kind of doing it now this season, but I kind of just feel like they're better than that. Their players are better than that. And I kind of want to see a bit more of it.
Yeah, and so you want to see if they can be the sum of their parts, which looks amazing on paper, and maybe even more than that. You want to see all hell break loose, and we don't really care about the negative side of that, because it's that intrigue, and maybe when you're referring to 20 years ago, that's at times what Arsenal did under Wenger, where, with total respect to such a successful manager, now it's very different in the way Mikel Arteta, like Pep Guardiola, who he's learned under, they are managing sort of every element of what's going on the pitch and where their team are moving and how they are set up and what duties they're performing. There was a small sort of, and you know, sometimes you don't want to bring attention to this, but there was a small section of the fan base on social media, and it made it into Mikel Arteta's press conference ahead of the match, where he was asked about a social media clip of himself, Arteta, sort of giving very vocal instructions to Eze to stay strictly in whatever position it was, really close to the touchline, when people want to see Eze being allowed to be a free spirit, coming inside, conjuring play. Well, you know, whatever the rights and wrongs of that point, you know, it reminds you of, say, a Jack Grealish, who came to City as this free spirit and everyone wanted to see it recreated at Man City, and people felt he was put in a tactical straitjacket, and he had to follow out the instructions, which ultimately helps him be part of a historic treble-winning team and win many more trophies and have success. Some people feel he still didn't fulfill his potential at City. Others say most players would die to have that kind of CV and medal collection. So totally agree, and we all want to see if Arsenal can go to where we all think they can go. But my only point is it is probably not as simplistic, and if that didn't work and they got stung like they've been stung in big matches historically in the last sort of 10 years or so, and they started losing these games, well, what would people say about Arteta then?
All right, well, for more on Arsenal's lack of fluency in attack, do head over to The Athletic and check out Amy Lawrence's match piece from the Emirates. Right, let's move on, because same story for Arsenal on the pitch, but there's plenty of change at executive level. We'll get into that one next.
استفدوا من فورفي السخاوة ديال وين باي انوي 15 جيجا وساعة ديال المكالمات غير ب 49 درهم في الشهر.
Je m'appelle Lars Hornquist. Je suis vice-président exécutif du développement durable. Les cartons aseptiques sont essentiels pour permettre aux gens d'accéder à des aliments sains en raison de la protection qu'ils offrent, mais aussi pour réduire le gaspillage alimentaire et les pertes alimentaires.
We've got Matt Slater with us, who's going to be talking more about how there have been some changes at executive level at Arsenal. But before that, David, you broke the news that Vice Chair Tim Lewis has left the club. How surprised are you by that news? But also, I guess the timing of it's quite interesting as well.
Yeah, I think it would have shocked many because Tim Lewis has been so heavily involved in Arsenal's rise, and that features their 3 second-place finishes, as we mentioned earlier, their competitiveness on the European stage as well, their finances being in a much better state, and generally the club is healthier on and off the pitch. And they've been on an upward trajectory since the Cronkies took full ownership in what was it, the summer of 2018. Tim Lewis was always their right-hand man. That's how he was described by many. He helped Stan Kroenke with the takeover initially, or the gradual investment. And he was always sort of on the scene at Arsenal, initially non-exec when he came in, and then he got the exec position. Fast forwarding to the sort of present day, like integral to the summer transfer window that has bought them all of these players that everybody's, or many people are celebrating, certainly among the Arsenal fan base, helped give Arteta the squad that has really unprecedented depth, worked really well with Andrea Berta, Mikel Arteta, Edu previously to Andrea Berta. Certainly not everybody's cup of tea, and we'll come on to speak about that. I'm sure Matt will, in terms of Premier League circles, maybe inside Arsenal as well as outside. And so with all of that in mind, it was something you didn't forecast, nor did you forecast Daniel Levy leaving Tottenham so soon after the summer transfer window, so maybe a little bit of symmetry there. But certainly there's been a growing influence of Josh Kroenke on behalf of KSE, the ownership, and obviously Stan Kroenke, as he gets older, maybe that was a natural ascent. And we don't know all the ins and outs in these situations. Certainly it was a decision of the ownership. To my understanding, it wasn't Tim Lewis's call to leave his role. Arsenal's statement described it as stepping down, and whether he was offered something as an alternative to his role that he didn't accept, and that's why that terminology was used. But this was definitely their call.
Okay, definitely. We're going to get more into that in just a second. Matt, let's go back to Tim Lewis. Thanks for joining us, by the way. How will his exit from Arsenal be viewed by others in the Premier League, more importantly?
It's a good question. Everyone was shocked. You know, when David broke the story, I got a few messages, and there was surprise. You know, Daniel Levy-like surprise. I think David's already hinted that he divided people. So I got a few messages along those lines. And when I say divided people, I kind of mean they were pleased to see him go.
Okay. Stretch the point, Matt, there. Nice.
Yeah. However, I think, reading between the lines, Tim Lewis was a bit like Robbie Savage.
Oh. Did not think that name was going to be dropped
If
in.
He was in your team, you loved him. You loved him. He passionately fought Arsenal's corner, was consistent, straightforward, and you know, there were no hidden agendas. He did his job for his club. But if he wasn't on your team, he was bloody annoying. Now, if he was to come to your team, you'd change your view because you'd be like, oh, that guy is absolutely putting a shift in for my club. So I think, because I've never met the guy, I have asked for an interview with him because I kept hearing how influential he was in Premier League shareholder meetings. And this goes back a few years. You know, he's been on the board there, I think, since 2020, and he's had this very senior position since 2023. Okay, so it's not a huge amount of time, but there's been quite a lot of upheaval in the room. And Lewis goes to meetings and he speaks in meetings. And in some of these meetings, you know, because people are having rows with the Premier League, They might have a very sort of specific sort of beef with another club. Who knows, right? There's lots of politics. Lewis has had a reputation for talking. Sometimes people think it's helpful. He's a bright guy. No one has suggested otherwise. And we'll talk. Some people say pontificate. Some people say mansplain. Some people say bang on. But he expresses an opinion. Now that, like I said, has.
If I can just play the rest of the year consistently, healthy, solid golf, I think I have a great chance to win the series.
Has annoyed people at times. And of course, does this matter to fans, right? Probably not. I think the only time he's really kind of crossed over into the mainstream, like kind of being a story, and it's funny that we're talking today after a pretty eventful draw between Man City and Arsenal. The only time I can think that he became a story was a previous one, and it was a really exciting game. It was the Stay Humble game, where Tim Lewis, Man City, claim stormed out without shaking hands with his counterparts. Now, of course, Arsenal and Tim Lewis would say, no, he didn't storm out. I had to go. I was in a hurry. That was about the only time, like I said, he's been back page. Now, Arsenal and Man City don't get on. They don't, because Arsenal have been on the opposite side of APT, financial fair play, the charges. Arsenal is in the eyes of Man City and their fans are red cartel.
If you've been in the Premier League over the past 10, 15, 10 years or so, what are the points that I suppose, you kind of made the point, does this matter to fans? Probably not in terms of the person, but probably some of the issues that are most fiercely argued about now, whether that's PSR, cost controls, financial fair play across whichever competition we're talking about. I think Arsenal have been completely, as you just say, with regards to Manchester City, at the heart of that, and not just at the heart of, wanting it, but trying to push it and make sure it's enforced and make sure it's not relaxed in any way. And also when Newcastle come along, making sure that there isn't a repeat of Manchester City by making sure that the rules are there. Would you say Arsenal were the key drivers of that, or kind of along? Because obviously, Chelsea have changed over the last few years. Not that they were ever particularly on that train, but Manchester United have changed, I think, their mindset on it since a lot of people from Manchester City and Jim Ratcliffe came in. And it's also interesting that this coincides with the time where Daniel Levy is leaving Tottenham, or has left Tottenham. So you've actually got two of the fiercest advocates for this vision of football in the Premier League leaving at the same time. So I'm curious, Matt, how you think those two leaving at the same time, what impact that has around the table.
Well, I think that's really significant. So if you take the two together, you're taking out two of the most experienced, biggest, loudest, strongest personalities, British voices, who very much spoke for the rulebook, concerns around sovereign wealth, concerns around people throwing money around. So they haven't just upset City and Newcastle. Other clubs have kind of bristled a little bit. Aston Villa, I've mentioned Newcastle already. Chelsea around asset sales. Arsenal, and this goes back a long. It's no mistake that kind of Tim Lewis ended up there. One, he's a fan, right? But he has sort of personified a very long-standing Arsenal position. This sort of Bank of England club, traditional values. We've always been big, biggest club in London. Old money. Didn't like the fact that Chelsea came along 20 odd years ago. Didn't like the fact that Man City came along 15. It's sort of that. It's that persona they give off, and Lewis has embodied that. Now, you ask a really question like, well, is it just Arsenal? Has Tim Lewis led this? I think maybe at times it's looked like he's led this because he has talked. He's the guy in the meeting who talks. Liverpool, who, are probably sitting there with their arms folded going, yeah, go on, Tim, keep going. Yep. You know, as are Man United at times, as are, you know, the middle class clubs, who I think have at times appreciated Tim Lewis battering ram approach. So your Palaces, your Brentfords, your Bournemouths, who are all very concerned about big clubs being big, bullying people, galloping off into the distance. So, you know, Daniel Levy's done that as well. You know, Daniel Levy has been that voice in the room who kind of who kind of speaks for that old Richard Scudamore boardroom, that collegiate approach. Guys, we're in this together. So I think that is interesting, and it'd be really, I'm fascinated to see how this plays out. I think one thing that I was picking up in David's answer, and I think it's really, really, for me, because I haven't heard a great theory. I haven't heard the consensus view yet on why now. And the best I've heard, and it's kind of mine as well, is that this is about the Cronkies being more confident. This is about like the next generation of Cronkies, Josh basically, going, do you know what? I don't need anyone holding my hand anymore. You know, we're pretty good at this. We own the Rams, the Nuggets, the Avalanche. We get sport. We've done our apprenticeship here long enough. We're going to properly integrate our group now. David would probably know more about this than I. I'd certainly know more about this than I. I wonder how Lewis was working with the rest of the group.
Yeah, the fine detail may come out in time, and we don't have a huge amount so far. But I'm not aware of there being massive integration between KSE, certainly sports clubs, and Arsenal. There's obviously been Sean McVay and Mikel Arteta, and there may be other bits and bobs behind the scenes, but it's not like a multi-club system. I know there's only 2 football clubs within it, but there are some now pretty successful sports franchises in terms of the Nuggets and the Rams. You guys probably know better than me. I think there was quite significant change at the Nuggets that Josh Kroenke oversaw in terms of removing some long-standing executives and bringing in some new ones at a pretty critical time within the last year and replacing them with some younger blood. So there is some sort of precedent within the group for this.
Well, that's exactly what I want to finish on before Matt goes very quickly, Matt, is that, you know, we've seen this growing influence of American business in the Premier League. And, you know, right at the top of the podcast, we're talking about how much further do Arsenal have to go to get to where Liverpool are. Would you say FSG are sort of a good indication as to the standard?
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, it would seem that way now, wouldn't it? Because they're doing it on the pitch. But Arsenal have been really, really close. For you know, a stretch of time now, and I don't think Arsenal get enough credit really for the Emirates move and just the sort of success of that. I know it feels like ancient history now, but it's a great stadium. You know, it's full. It looks and sounds like a football ground. You know, they've done a good job there. They just need to win a title, and everyone would suddenly go, oh, you know, they're the gold standard. I think the, you know, that's football, isn't it? That's sport. But I think the thing that I would add to the Lewis, if you like, post-mortem, no, he's not dead, is he has taken a sort of de facto leadership role within the league on negotiations with the EFL around the New Deal. And you know, his approaches can be a little bit belligerent, and there's certainly no love lost. There's no one grieving his exit in EFL circles, and that's clubs as well. They found him kind of tough to deal with, a bit patronising, frankly. Now, he's not here to defend himself. Like I said in my opening answer, I think he took his approach was what's best for Arsenal.
Okay, nice one, Matt. Well, we'll let you go. Appreciate your time as always. Speak soon. All right, so Liverpool are now 5 points clear at the top of the Premier League following their win over Everton in the Merseyside derby this weekend. 15 points from 15 for Arne Slot's side. Adam, are we already seeing Liverpool pull away in the Premier League race?
It feels that way. I don't think the performances are there. Now, there's 2 ways to look at that. On the one hand, it means they there's a vulnerability that at some point may be exposed. I thought again against Everton, there was periods of the game, second half, where they were, they didn't look great. The flip side is they've kind of won 5 games without any of their new signings really looking like they're bedded in fully. You've had Kirkes taken off in the first half of games. Wirtz, I think, has been pretty underwhelming so far. Obviously, Ekitike has done well, I should say that. But Isaac is obviously just kind of starting. So there's something a bit ominous about that. I think one of the reasons why Arsenal fans may have been a bit more annoyed yesterday is because of the game they've got next week, which is Newcastle away, which has really been like a graveyard for Arsenal the past couple of years. And that's going to be another really big test, actually, for Arsenal. And I think Liverpool have got a home game. I can't remember who they've got. They've got a pretty straightforward-looking game. Palace away next week. And Palace, strangely, Palace are a lot better away than they are at home. I mean, although they're not easy to beat. But you would think that Liverpool win that game, and then it puts pressure on Arsenal again, right? It's, can they, are we going to be like 6, 7, 8 points, before the clocks have even gone back? And I think that's the worry. It's like they're getting away from us, and they're so good. It's not just what Arsenal do, it's also, what Liverpool do. Equally, I think Arsenal knew at the start of the season they had a pretty tough opening. They knew they had to go to Man United. They won that game, so that's probably is that a game you expect to win? Historically, it's been a bit tricky for Arsenal. So, that one they did okay. The Liverpool one, I think that was a disappointing result, but okay, it's your hardest game of the season. If you're going to lose a game, you probably lose that one. And then Man City, okay, you draw, but it probably just means they have to go to Man City later in the season and win, because it does feel like a year where it's going to be 90 points to win the league.
Yeah, and I guess it probably leads on to something Amy Lawrence has been speaking about in terms of Arsenal finding their fluidity and trying to click in real time against some amazing opposition as well. All right, that's the weekend's action. Discuss.
Covered in mud, what a mess. Great. Zombies, of course. Knew that fence was useless. Get inside.
Welcome to the Athletic FC podcast with me, Ayo Akimolere.
Well, this was certainly a bad day at the office. So poor at the back. They just looked so nervy, and when they went forward, it was really slow and pedestrian. They'll be really disappointed after that.
Hello and welcome to the TIFO Football Podcast. I'm Joe Devine, and today I'm delighted to be joined by Judge Bull.
Here I am.
Ruben Panda.
18.
I said Panda. 18? Oh, that's the number of games.
I'm going to keep doing that until we lose.
I'm going to forget it every week. And Kaya Kainak.
2 points.
Okay. 2 points?
I don't know. You said 18. I wanted to do something point.
3 points.
You've got 3 points.
No, we're two. The
gap's 2
It was 8
points.
before.
And 18 plus 2 is 20, which is a good number.
That's the number of Premier League titles.
Topics we cover.
Liverpool or Man United have won. That is also the number of topics that we cover in today's episode. And here is a list of some of them. Has the title race swung decisively at this early stage, or is that short-term bunkum? Bunkum?
Bunkum.
Bunkum?
Bunkum.
I've never heard of
Bunkum means
bunkum
nonsense.
Does it?
Yes.
Really?
So what we could have said is a load of bunkum.
Bunkum. I've never heard that before. Have you heard that?
No.
Bunkum? Have
I
you
can
heard
normally
that?
back Steve up on the posh words, but no.
No? No?
Bunkum.
Let's just double check.
Bunkum, sir.
Bunkum. Oh yeah, it does mean nonsense.
Yeah.
They here's the here's the little use in a sentence. They talk a lot of bunkum about their products. I wonder who they're talking about. Google.
I signed a player on EAFC last night called Cha Bum-kun.
Chabamkun.
Yeah.
Well, what was the first name?
Cha
Bumkun.
Bum-kun.
Okay, this is taking a turn I did not anticipate.
Bumkun. Very close.
Bum-kun. Yeah.
Very close.
Shouldn't have put
South
that word in
Korean,
the
like-
script there, Steve.
Yeah.
Steve, what have you done? We also reminisce over the great 1920 West Bromwich Albion side, one of the finest, and we talk about their players. Crystal Palace are going to win it all, or possibly just the Top four. That was actually kind of creepy when I did that.
You looked me right in the eye.
Top four. Ooh. And then someone sent me a Slack message, which isn't important now. What happens next? Oh, we saunter off talking about haircuts and my backpack. Yes, we talk about my backpack a little bit. My lovely backpack. I miss it so. Oh, the separation game. Roots full of holes this time out. Some of us are unsuccessful. Some of us are successful. But we all thought we were successful, but some of us, it transpired.
A lesson learned there. Always look in the Wikipedia career statistics section.
You've got to do, I don't even know what that is. That sounds like a nightmare.
You use Transfermarkt, don't you?
I sort of use a combination of two of them, but then I leave a lot to be desired. So,
You should build a robot to help with that.
I don't know. Also, JJ builds a robot to help with something later. You'll find out what. Graham Potter is no longer the West Ham manager. Now that's Nuno. We talk about that. We also talk about, I've got spit all over myself. We also talk about we rake over the coals, right, Steve, of another Manchester United defeat. Although we spent most of that time talking about Brentford, I would say. A very, very impressive Brentford. Oh, and that was fun. Also, we asked the participants here to guess which states in America are actually the Midwest states, because it's not the ones that, if you're not from America, you think. I think, so a fun
you
game.
Can't call them the Middle East, though, can you?
but technically you call them the Mid-East.
Yeah, Mid-East.
Yeah. So it'd be a fun distinction, wouldn't it, between the Mid-East and the Middle East? One's mid, one's middle.
Would confuse people.
We would confuse people, yeah. And we play points are bad, So there's that. There's that as well. It was a jam-packed show, wasn't it?
Non-stop.
Non-stop. Yeah, non-stop. And also Kaya barked himself by accident at the end.
Which
Stick
is
around.
not a euphemism.
No, that's not a euphemism. Okay, great. Everything, Steve?
It is.
Cool. Well, where else to begin, of course, than the title race? Oh, yes, Ruben?
I know where else we can begin.
Oh, where?
The other game.
Oh, no.
The champions losing? No?
You mean unbeaten Crystal Palace?
Yeah.
Well, listen, in a sense, we are beginning there, but we're going to come to talk about Palace a little bit later.
Okay.
We're going to start by talking about the really big team that people actually care about. No, not Man United. It's Liverpool. And also Arsenal and their illustrious victory over Newcastle in the final minutes at St James's Park. We'll talk about them a little bit too, because it has impacted what the current table looks like. Now, it's sort of mad, isn't it, to say we're going to have a conversation about the title race this number of games in. However, it did start to feel a little bit like Liverpool were going to run away with it, didn't it? Whereas now...
Have you changed your mind now, have you?
Not me, the league, what the numbers of the and the places.
My opinion has changed from week to week also, depending on who has won and lost in the league table.
Well, what about this week? Because previously, Liverpool were sort of gushing away on 15 points. They had an opportunity to gush further.
Gushing away?
Steve's looking at me when I say gushing.
Gushing makes you feel uncomfortable.
No, they were gushing away, like as though they were at a water park, know? Gushing down a log flume towards 18 points. Stopped, of course, by the hero Eagles. And now they're only 2 points ahead of Arsenal, who, as we both know, JJ, luckily scraped a win at Newcastle at St James's Park. It's true. Don't look at me, Kaya. Don't look at me, Steve. It's true. So how has your opinion changed this week as it relates to Arsenal, Liverpool, the title race? Do you feel more confident that there is one?
I think Liverpool have got lucky in a few games. They are obviously good, and I like that they go all-out attack with all these forwards going about. I don't think it quite clicks, and I think Slot's version of what they're trying to do is not as good as what Jurgen Klopp was doing for a long time. And when I say not as good, I just mean there's something that's just missing about it that isn't perfect. And the underlying numbers play out because they're overperforming quite a lot. They are on, I think it was, depending on the model you look at, Understat or Opta, I think they're roughly about 5 points over where they should be.
Yeah.
And so that will balance
run a little
out.
hot.
Yeah, but that's fine because good teams do that, right? And when Liverpool won the title in 1920, over the hell was 2019.
In 1920,
yes,
it was
when they did that.
It was some time ago.
It was on black and white.
Yeah, they had Herbert Jones up front, and
they went on penny farthings to the stadium, etc.
Well, I say Divock Origi.
That's it.
And yes,
good teams overperform. That's where you were.
Good teams overperform.
They do, and they did that a lot in that time of year.
I think Ruben later is going to say he's going to apply the same argument to Crystal Palace. But hold on before you do that.
I mean, I just did a short this morning about our Crystal Palace are better than anyone actually realizes.
You hold on as well.
Okay.
We're coming. We're coming to it.
All right.
We've got to keep the Crystal Palace fans.
حساسية الأسنان ما يمكنش تمشي بوحدها. سونسوجين غيباري بروتيج كيتميز بمادة نوفامين. مادة نوفامين كتصايب طبقة حماية وترميم على المناطق الحساسة. كنصح
Wet and baited, you know, they need to be.
We talk about them all the time.
Yeah.
That's true. I mean, we
Ruben's
do.
here,
We
we-
constantly
Mainly
talk
because of
about
me.
it.
Well, He's
But also
helping them
because
from
we're
within the
massive,
media.
right.
They're trying to help bolster the media coverage.
That's my
of Crystal
mission.
Palace.
Just like yours was to bring down Scottish football, mine is to bring
That's right.
Palace up. Yeah.
And I've done it.
I just wanted to. No one's written in about that yet. Though. Maybe someone will. I just want to announce Steve Hankey is included in the script now that the English champions of the 1919-20 season, West Bromwich Albion. There you go.
Great side.
Back in the glory days.
Great side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember them?
Of course.
Of course.
John McGold up top.
John McGold
Yeah.
and then Darren McSilver. They made a great pairing.
They were pretty good.
They were pretty
good. But I would say Darren Bronze wasn't quite as good.
No, he wasn't as good.
I'd probably say one below Silver.
Terry Titanium, though, he was incredible.
Sturdy centre back, Terry Titanium.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
You walk into him, it's like walking into metal.
Yeah, Ralph Diamond in goal.
Unbreakable. Unbreakable.
No matter what pressure you put him under.
Yeah. And then, of course, there was Barry Blackhole, who just ruined everything. he ruined everything. But there were theories that he started everything again. Anyway, what were we talking about? Oh, Arsenal and Liverpool. And what do you think, Kaya? There's a title race now? I'm sure you think there is, isn't there?
Yeah, now, definitely. I think there was all the long.
Was there?
Yeah. I think
All the long?
All the long.
Wow.
All the long night. Yeah. The title race never went away. But it has swung ever so slightly, which is exciting. I think there was a possibility that it was going to be an 8-point gap for Liverpool if kind of form had been followed and Liverpool had won this game and Arsenal had lost the game.
I know there's only 6 games played, but 8-point gap is...
8's a lot.
It's quite a lot.
It's a lot more than 5.
Yeah.
And a lot more than 2.
A hell of a lot more than 2.
And now it's 2. It feels pretty good.
Yeah.
So, I think it's the kind of game... The way Arsenal won it is the kind of game that Liverpool would have won it, if I've phrased that kind of weirdly.
You have. Explain that again.
JJ was talking about Liverpool overperforming and good teams overperforming. And they've done that a lot this season with lots of late wins at Newcastle, in fact. And the way Arsenal won the game was Liverpool-esque at lots of points this season.
Right.
And Arsenal haven't always been able to do that. They've maybe fallen behind and not been able to react, or especially when decisions have gone against them, they've not always reacted that well. But it felt like within this game they reacted pretty well, and they came back to win.
A few decisions went their way as well, of course.
1 or 2. The winning goal scored by a player who could have been sent off.
Yeah, I think you're being quite harsh on Arsenal or generous to Liverpool there. Like timing-wise, it was Liverpool-esque, but I think Arsenal absolutely deserved the win yesterday in terms of domination and chances created and stuff.
I'm very afraid of jinxing anything, so I'm nervous to even say there's been a swing, really, even though mathematically there has. I just feel weird.
Well, let me tell you, I believe that the title race is going to hot up even further because I've just taken a look at
What's somewhere over the next 32 games?
I'm fingers crossed, I hope so.
I've known you for about 4.5 years now, and every year you decide one team has already won the league when they get to around about 8 or 10 points ahead.
Know. It's because then when they haven't anymore, it's very exciting.
After game week 1, we said that City would win the league.
That's true. Whereas if you always say, it's still in it, you never get surprised by anything. Do you know what I mean?
I know. I get
it's nice. A nice way to live my life. Now listen to these upcoming fixtures that Liverpool have. Their next few. They play. Is it Galatasaray tomorrow night? Tonight, yeah. They play Galatasaray on Tuesday. They're away from home. Here's what October looks like for Liverpool: away to Chelsea, at home to Manchester United. Then they've got a trip.
Those are both easy.
Maybe we don't know that. I think they're tricky. I think those are both.
I don't want to keep derailing you, but this happens all the time now. Everyone's like, look at the fixtures that this club has. And oh, the Premier League ones are all difficult, are they? Yes, because they're all really good teams. Oh, they're playing in Europe in the Champions League. It must be difficult games. It always happens.
Well, you've preempted because then they're playing away at Eintracht Frankfurt with a tricky European fixture there, and then they're away to Brentford. Hold on. November. Now then, Aston Villa visit them. Then Real Madrid visit them.
That's 5 wins,
Then
I'd expect. And then Real Madrid, maybe.
You think they're going to win all 5 of those other games?
I think Slot would start getting pelters if they didn't win almost all of them. They can have a draw with one of them.
Then they play Manchester City away from home.
That's tough.
That's the tough one. They're one of
Real
the
Madrid's tough as well.
wobbliest teams.
Nah, Chelsea are missing too many defenders. Liverpool absolutely should and will win that game. Man United, we've been over a million times, absolutely useless.
Can we test JJ's confidence in a special bonus edition of Points Are Bad? JJ thinks they're going to win all of these games. Steve, can you take some notes, please? Now, JJ, away to Chelsea, 5:30 if it helps, on Saturday the 4th of October. Win?
Those are quite low scoring.
Just all I want from you is you said win, right?
Yeah.
Win? Okay, he said win. They play at home to Manchester United on a Sunday.
Yeah.
That's a win?
Yeah, it was Man United, yeah.
Okay. They're away to Eintracht Frankfurt. That's a win. You said 5 wins, right?
I think they should win that. Yeah.
Okay. Then they're away to Brentford. That's a win.
Yeah.
Yeah. November, they're at home to Villa. You said that's a win.
Well, at the moment it is, yeah.
Yeah. And then they play Real Madrid, and you think that might be tricky.
Yeah, although I think that Real Madrid team is very beatable.
Yeah, okay. And what about Galatasaray? They play tomorrow night.
I have not watched them, so I don't know. But I'm going to assume from what I know from the 90s, they'll beat them.
Okay, so Steve, what we have is JJ predicts that Liverpool will win all 6 of their next games.
We're saying not 7th as well, including Real Madrid.
No, did you think they'll beat Real Madrid?
No, that's 0-0.
That's a 0-0. Okay, so we just say, and they'll win every game between now and Real Madrid. There's the confidence of the bull man. Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, let's see.
What noise do bulls make? Yeah, I think that's it. Okay. Sorry, Ruben, what were you saying?
Basically that
Right.
it is. I agree. It's a very winnable run of games.
Steve, can you just get your pen out again? Ruben, you think... No, we won't do that.
Despite the fact that, as we will come on to, I'm not trying to rush it, they were terrible on Saturday.
I don't think that's a very winnable run of games. They'll 100% drop points.
I know, but that's because you think it's 2009. Like, Chelsea aren't...
They just lost to Crystal Palace.
Yeah, Crystal Palace are amazing. They're a really good team.
الماكس ديال لي جيجا بأقل ثمن 45 جيجا ساعتين ديال المكالمات 100 درهم في الشهر.
They are. They genuinely are.
I'm not saying they're not a really good team, but are you saying there's no really good teams in this list that we've just talked about?
Man United are one of the worst teams in Europe.
I'm not specifically talking about... I think they'll beat Man United as well.
Chelsea, you can beat them. Like, Brighton just did them.
The most likely place they drop points is Brentford.
It's Brentford.
I agree. And this is the thing, because it's always like... This happened last season as well with Liverpool when they won the league, and they're like, look at their run of games, and now we'll really find out. I think I even said something like this. We'll really find out. It'll be interesting to see how they get after this run of games.
Yeah.
And then they end up just like pumping all of them,
right?
Because they're really good. But when you come up against teams who are,
you just said you thought they weren't as good though.
Liverpool,
yeah.
No, I think they are really good. I think they're. It's hard to explain. Like, I think they're really good, but I can see holes in them where you could go through them.
Right.
And like, if you play in certain ways, you can get at them. Basically, if they don't score, then they're vulnerable. Which sounds stupid,
right?
But like, obviously, I know how the game works, or do I? But then there's just a certain vulnerability for them.
Yeah.
I think the way he's changing it and playing players like Frimpong and taking Robertson out and like not having a midfield 3 that's really holding it. He's got like 2 really, and Wirtz doesn't quite. I get it. I like Wirtz a lot. I don't think it really works in what they're trying to do, and they sort of move forward with momentum almost. I think I said this before, like rugby, but not rugby. It's just like they can constantly go forwards because players don't want to be run at, and it makes it super intense and hard to play against. But there are these rest defense issues that we've covered loads of times before, and I just feel like these are like the teams that tend to win it tend to be like what Arsenal are doing. The Arsenal thing against Newcastle reminded me of old Man United. Like, you want them to lose because it's funny, because like they have all the like, oh, we're gonna win now, come on guys, and then they end up just finally managing to get through, and they chuck a corner in, and then they end up scoring a last-minute winner.
They grind it out.
Yeah, exactly.
It's ugly.
That's what
painful.
Fergie's Man United used to do.
Yeah,
that's how they used to play, and it reminded me of the same way I feel about them is kind of similar.
Yeah.
I'm just going to add to the.
So they haven't won anything.
No, the 1919-20 season.
Yeah,
when West Bromwich Albion won.
When West Brom won the league, both Liverpool Man U games ended 0-0.
Is that right?
Yeah, so
it's a pretty common scoreline.
Yeah. Thought you might enjoy that.
It's actually not that common. Someone wrote in to me privately, and I won't share all of the results because I think it could spoil the game of Points Are Bad. But a listener of ours wrote in and had to run the numbers on the last 4 seasons.
Yeah.
I haven't replied to you yet. Thanks for sending in. Of the last 4 seasons of the Premier League and all of the scores, and 0-0 is not a favourable.
Is that right?
No, it's not. So if you'd done it on average for every game for the last 4 years, you wouldn't be winning.
So
1-1 is, as expected, narrowly the preferable option to pick.
With 2-1 second.
2-1 and 1-2 a second, yeah. But then, but beyond that, we won't go into it loads more because I do think it could spoil the magic.
We can work that out.
Well, it's
from
going to influence
average goals per game. Right?
That's going to influence what I want to
I
pick.
don't think you can. That's the interesting thing about points are bad. You can't.
No, I'm not saying you can like win the game, but like
I just mean it's
gather...
not the most common score. The information, the trend isn't the same as the most common score lines because you're working out the scores as it relates to each individual team's number of goals, not that scoreline between the 2 teams together.
Yeah.
So, like, what is 4th on the list is not a common scoreline. It's just best for the game, you know?
Okay.
So I'm not going to spoil it.
Who's got the time to work that out?
Well, I don't know. I'm sure someone at Crystal Palace because, they clearly don't need to do any training, Ruben. They're the greatest team alive.
Because they do such good training.
Oh, right. I've misunderstood.
It's all Glasner. It's all Glasner. They made Liverpool look really bad. And
I didn't watch this game. What did it look like?
So the first half, Liverpool conceded, or Palace created, let's give them credit, 1.5 XG, which for a half is a lot. And
it's a lot.
Being there, seeing the chances, how they happened, it could have very feasibly been 4-0 at half time.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, Alisson made some really good saves in the first half from shots that, like slightly low percentage opportunities, but like Mateta hit the post, Pino and Munoz had great efforts saved. Palace were brilliant. And it's not the sit back and counter simple tactic that a lot of people may fairly assume a team like that plays. It's very like mid-blocky and shutting out the middle. So Liverpool's central midfielders had to come quite wide to get the ball, and then they were having to build up through Bradley and Kirkez, and Wirtz and Isak were very isolated, and that's credit mainly to like Palace's back 3, I think, shutting down all the space. And every time Palace got the ball, I think on the Totally Show, Adrian Clark mentioned that the Palace had a shot for every 11 completed passes.
Wow.
So they're really not wasting any time. When you've got a player like Wharton in the team who threaded a lot of great passes to Sarr, Mateta, and Tyrick Mitchell, I think, deserves way more credit than he gets because the wing-backs in this team play so high, which obviously is important when you don't have proper wingers. Munoz is the more natural at that. He's got a bit more pace, more stamina, just naturally more of an attacking brain. Mitchell came through as like a defensive, years ago when he first started playing, he came through as like a defensive alternative to Patrick Van Aanholt, who could attack but not defend. And now he's having to be coached into more of a creative attacking threat. And athletically, he's not as gifted as some of the maybe elite wing-backs, but he was a constant threat down the left, played some great cutbacks. And I think he suffers from that slight aesthetic thing that football fans have where, because if a player doesn't look as maybe silky or pleasing on the eye, it's harder to see what value they offer. But those wing-backs were such a problem for Liverpool, who really struggled to create anything or prevent any chances. Like, they looked so suspect defensively. Konate, there's one chance where Kamada realises that Konate doesn't really have an option and he's kind of dithering on the ball, pokes it out from underneath his feet, and Mateta runs through on goal. And that is...
خليك هاني ومكونكتي فين ما كنتي مع السخاوة ديال فورفيات انوي على انوي بايما ولا الابليكاسيون ماي انوي.
You could literally start your own business right now with Shopify. It blows my mind. With Shopify, it's easier than ever to do it in a professional way, where it actually looks legit. It's incredible. Start your free trial at shopify.com.
I think credit to how Palace played without the ball is that Liverpool didn't really know where to go, and also that whenever the ball went long and Van Dijk, Van Dijk's going to win the header even against Mateta, who's very tall. Palace were kind of almost allowing Van Dijk to win those headers, and so that they were better set to pounce on the second ball, which I thought was very smart as well.
Clever.
Yeah, they were just like, it was much like the Wembley performances last season. Like, everyone just did their job perfectly.
Yeah.
But for that to happen, you need good players, but you also need a brilliant coach to facilitate those tactics where players' weaknesses, because there are players with weaknesses in the team, obviously, but they never really get exposed at the moment, which is why they're now 18 games unbeaten.
Incredible. It's an incredible run.
And they're joint top of the expected points table.
Amazing. Because I suppose early on last season, we saw some teams you wouldn't expect being up there, up and about in the top four, but they were all overperforming their numbers, whereas we're saying Crystal Palace aren't.
Yeah, over 38 games, it tends to balance out. Nottingham Forest massively overperformed, and then obviously dropped down towards the end of the season, so they ended up in, what is it, 7th they finished?
Something like that, yeah.
And Palace are legit where they should be.
Wow.
They are genuinely really good.
Do you think they can finish in the top 4?
I don't think it's past them. Like, it's too early, and that'll probably... Thing is, though, it's not that they're overperforming, so it's not going to balance out. Whether they can keep it up is the difference, because then you have to rely on things like momentum. You have to rely on things going your way always, and also injuries. If they lost Adam Wharton, I think it would make a huge difference. Like, if Mateta got injured, it would make a huge difference. Like, all those
Munoz as well, because that's the one position where we don't actually have any depth.
Right.
Yeah, there's all these things that could easily happen, and they've got Europe as well, obviously, so that'll have an effect over some point. But they've been slowly, steadily getting better. Like, when you are a team with Palace and the players that Palace have, I think sometimes things go against you now and again, like they're going for them at the moment. And that's when you end up having a bad season rather than a good one, even though your underlying numbers are still decent.
Just on that, do you think that maybe being in the Conference League might actually go in Palace's favour in a way? I know it was very controversial in the way they ended up, but like the fact that those are much easier midweek fixtures when you've got quite a thin squad, do you think that could go in your favour in terms of sustaining?
I mean, you say it's a thin squad. It is for a Premier League team competing in Europe.
Yeah.
However, now to us, it feels like a deep squad because we're so used to, like, the lineups that we're used to seeing in the past, where the bench, your options off the bench are like Jeffrey Schlupp,
Scott Dan,
Gyro Reedval. Scott Dan would probably be starting in that era.
That's
but yeah,
true, yeah.
like, it's James Tompkins, Jeffrey Schlupp, and Jordan Ayew, and that's it. Whereas now we're bringing on players like Nketiah, we've got this Uche, he looks really good. Hughes came on, made a difference. Lerma came on, took the long throw. So yeah, we do have good depth, like you say. So yes, potentially. I mean, and on the kind of mentality side of it, Glasner said at the FA Cup celebrations at the end of last season, competing in 4 trophies, 4 titles to win. Let's go for them, as if we have a realistic chance of winning all 4, which would be...
That's how you get better.
Quite something.
I'm all for it.
But just the way, like, saying that with a straight face is like, I don't know, it sounds ridiculous, but to the players, the small advantage of kind of just instilling the mentality that we can beat anyone, because we
can do the quadruple.
We can't do the quadruple, but we can beat anyone.
Yeah.
So, you know.
That's true. Wow. I too am all for it. Yeah. What do you guys think? Do you think top 4 can catch on? 4. Top 4.
Top 4.
Top 4. But like as a descriptor for teams that should be in the top 4 because of how well they're playing. Like Crystal Palace are a top 4 team.
Yeah, I like that.
You know what I mean?
Is that like a top 4 as opposed to like a Bostonian 4?
Yeah, as in like PHWOAR.
Yeah, like a mail online sidebar.
Yeah. Top
4 Eagles saw.
Top 4, have a look at that. You know? Yeah. I'd love it if that did catch on. Do you know who I think wouldn't love it if that caught on? Just to go back to Arsenal again, because it was kind of an ugly scrape through victory, wasn't it? It was sort of.
I don't know if I agree.
You know,
with
it was
that.
one of those games. No one liked it. No one liked the outcome.
I liked it quite a lot. Yeah.
You and Steve Hankey together. You were livid in the WhatsApp group. You almost had a row with John McKenzie.
Yeah,
that's why he's not on the show today, because Kaya wouldn't let him in the room.
Thing is, I realised later that we were actually saying the same thing.
I think
we just
you sort of
agreed,
were,
and he texted me saying, "Stop acting like I'm not agreeing with you." So,
it was a contentious game of sort of incidents for some time, wasn't it? And there was a continual battle between Voltemade and Gabriel that was got a little bit. I was going to say frisky. It didn't get frisky. It got a little bit of fraught at times.
Yeah, fraught.
But when he hit him in the face.
Yeah, when he hit him in the face. Yeah.
And then became that meme of I want to shake your hand.
Oh my god! Yeah,
good.
just shake. Yeah, but to JJ's point before, they do. When they get like that, they do look like a team that's going to win the league, don't they?
Yeah, those are the kind of... And Gary Neville went very big on it in the commentary, in the sense he kept saying Arsenal need to win this game. Even when it was 1-0 down, which is like, wow, this seems premature, but he really like, this is the kind of game Arsenal need to win. And he was kind of right, especially given all the stuff that had gone on earlier in the week with Palace doing a very nice thing, and Arsenal sort of having... accused of playing with the handbrake on last week. I think Mikel Arteta, I don't think there can be any accusations of that. Like, I think by the end, Trossard was at left back. I know Lewis Skelly came on for the second goal, but he really went for it with his substitutions. And midfield of Eze, Rice and Zubimendi was really fun, and he put Eze in sort of a number 10 kind of free role, which worked really well because he was getting a lot of shots off on the edge of the box, and Nick Pope made some really good saves. So,
well, he started with a hugely, necessarily rotated team as well, which, to your point, they just couldn't have really done last year.
No, and I think these are the kind of games and points that Arsenal are picking up in ways that they wouldn't have done last year. So I think we said on the pod last week that, the show, I know you hate the word pod.
I hate the word
pod.
I hate the word pod as well.
Just call it the podcast.
Sorry.
I agree. I don't know why it
It's not a show. We aren't really a show, I feel like, because we don't do any show. You know what I mean? If it was a show, you'd feel like there'd be some razzmatazz or something. This is very much a podcast. So you think? I'm not saying some podcasts aren't shows. Some podcasts are definitely shows. But there's a sort of grading, a certification system. I don't know. I think of this as a podcast.
Okay.
Podcast. But you say whatever you want. Don't worry about it. I don't want to control what you say. I don't want to. I mean, I do. But I don't want to stop you from saying pod.
Yeah.
Say whatever you say. And I didn't. You'll notice I didn't stop him from. He stopped himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true.
Learnt behaviours.
Yeah. Now carry on talking. Okay.
طلعت على التكييم بطلع من الساعة 10 برجع على المغرب بروح بصف ساعتين وأنا واقف في عزي.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Fabrizio Romano here as always to keep you posted on the transfer market. Today guys, several things to say. We have to go from Arsenal, William Saliba, to Chelsea, Enzo Maresca and his future, and then United, Gareth Southgate League. Some more to say on Barcelona, not only. Let's jump into it together. And here we are guys, as always, to keep you updated with transfers, with managers, with all the latest, with all the news. And let me start today from contracts, because we always have contract updates in this moment of the year. It's a Champions League week, of course, but contracts are always a big topic, and I want to start, first of all, with the confirmation of what I told you last week. Savinho will sign his new contract at Manchester City. I'm told everything is done now, so the new contract will be valid until June 2031. For Savinho, 6-year contract at Manchester City, improved salary for the Brazilian winger. Pep Guardiola also confirming that Savio will be part of the future project with a new long-term contract after Manchester City turned down proposals over 70 million euros from Tottenham in the summer transfer window for Savinho. What I'm told is that the announcement could be later this week for Savinho with a new contract in his hands at Manchester City. And so, Savio stays at City. And then the other big story from last week, William Saliba and Arsenal, the new contract until June 2030, 5-year deal is signed. Everything is done. Saliba has put pen to paper for his new deal at Arsenal. He's a fantastic news for Arsenal, as I told you in the recent days. I think this is a massive achievement Not just because Saliba is extending, not just because Saliba is staying, but because of the timing to make it happen now, at the beginning of the season, to avoid months and months, especially in the second half of the season, in the crucial moment of the season, with rumors, with speculation, with Real Madrid interest, because Real Madrid interest in Saliba was really strong, really concrete, not just a media speculation. And so to avoid all that part of the story is really important for Arsenal, really important for Saliba. Andrea Berta, Arsenal director, wanted to be fast on this contract extension for Saliba after giving the player and his agent a new contract proposal in August, and now everything done, the agent of Saliba
دوشت وخرج بالخف. الحكا رجعات غير دوشت وخرج بالخف. القصره رجعات برزطاتك القصره والحكا وبغيتي تهنى بالخف. قول لهم ما كنتقشروش مع هيدن شولدر جديد بتركيبات جيل قويه للتنظيف العميق ديال الحكا والقشره الصعيبه باش ما عمرهم يرجعوا. مع هيدن شولدر جديد قولها وارتاح ما كنتقشروش.
زوز بلوك يعني مزيان اليز لا فاليز اللي كنشوف المايونيز تحداك اخويا زوز بلوك نطايف انا وياك فين ما بغيت.
خشا خضع تنتحدى ينزع عندي الرينغ انا تنتحداك الساط.
السلام انا كنتحدى وكنعلم بانني نبغى نتحدى ريكو
ونتحدى فيها بدر هاري ابو زعيتر جون سينا ريكو
كنتحدى مايا خليفه في شي ماتش.
ولا تعطيني الفرصه اقسم بالله بكل ثقه تندير شي حاجه.
جي عندي نشربك القهوه.
وطلقت غمس.
اولا سمحوا لي التعطيله حيت كان عندي شي حوايج مهمه خاصني نديرها.
ويلي 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 وهلا
كاملين شفنا التحدي اللي طلب من لولي من ريكو.
فيرهوفن this message is for you I don't joke believe me.
ولكن من بعد التحدي اللي طلب من لولي من ريكو خرجوا بزاف ديال الرياضيين وغير الرياضيين وطلبوا تحدي من الملولي وريكو. مال ريكو واش قبل التحدي؟ واش مسالي للتبريش انايا؟
ما نكذبش عليك ناكلو
تقد عليه ولا طيحك
قطع يديا.
نقدر انا نتحدى هشام اللولي الا بغى يلعب معايا مرحبا ولا طيحك يا مرحبا.
تحدي مرحبا والف مرحبا. الزمان والوقت والمكان
ولا طيحك
غنتحدى الملولي وغنربحو
ولا طيحك
ديال ها وها كلبي ثابت
واثق من نفسي وكنتحداه. الا كان هو كيضرب بروتين انا كنضرب اتاي والخبز والزيت
ولا طيحك
كيحرج ليك يقول لك انا بطال. ورا غادي تمشي على تركيا غدير صدر هذاك كيتسمى عندك صدر ديال العيالات. هذوك الرياضيين حنا كيبان لينا هذاك الشيء شافاه وضحك.
جا بواحد الطريقه ضحكتيني.
هشام الملولي كيخاف من هذا العبد الضعيف ولا طيحك. مع احتراماتي لهاد القناه ديال الشعب انا كنحترم هاد القناه هذه.
جا بواحد الطريقه ضحكتيني.
تحداه اي رياضه اللي بغا.
كنتحداك سناني لوبي عليك بالمصطلح المغربي. وانا اتحداك اخويا هشام. جيبوا لي الملولي انا بغيت الملولي الدراري. جيبوا لي الملولي انا بغيت الملولي
ولا طيحك. باش تقارن هشام اللولي مع ريكو راه ما تقارن حتى مع بدر هاري مع السكريكو.
وملولي شنو ما عنده حتى شي اكسبيريونس.
قولها لي اخويا والله الا قولها لي.
دونك ما تقدرش تقارن واحد.
بشحال اللي بات عمي شحال اللي بات؟
شنو ما كاع المكاس الله يحفظك.
ريكو هو اللي غادي يحزق يما.
لا صاحبي لا
اللولي راه غادي في راسو بغا يتنازل مع ريكو باش يركب على الموجه.
عمي الله يهديك شحال اللي باط عمي هيا. والتحديات وصلت حتى للجنون.
واحد الدري كيقولوا له يوسف مرحبا كيدير التحديات، قال غادي يدخل لواحد الدار مهجوره فيها الجنون، وانا نخرج دابا غادي ندير امارش غادي نمشي عنده، انا بغيت نضارب مع شي جن اصلا.
دابا غتخيلوا معايا ريكو كيتفرج في هذا اللايف هذا
بدا بواحد الطريقه ضحكتي.
ولكن بكل صراحه هاد التحديات انا معاها. غنشرح لكم. واحد اليوتيوبر مشهور سميتو بول كان عنده واحد المشكل مع يوتيوبر واحد اخر اللي سميتو دي جي، كانوا ديما كيتسابوا في ستوريات وداكشي. ناضوا الجماهير ديالهم وما يسخنوا الطرح وقالوا لهم علاش ما تدابزوش في حلبه قانونيه والواري بين لينا. هنا فين كاين الفيل. وغير اللقاءات الصحفيه ديال هاد جوج اليوتيوبر حصدت الملايين المشاهدات.
La sensibilité dentaire ne part pas toute seule. Sensodyne répare et protège se distingue par sa technologie Novamine. La Novamine restaure et protège les dents sensibles en formant une barrière minérale. Je recommande vivement Sensodyne répare et protège car il est prouvé scientifiquement.
Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
وتباعوا كاع التذاكر ديال المباراة. يعني الجمهور تفرج واستمتع واليوتيوبر تا هما استافدوا. لا اكثر من هادشي كامل، بول عاود دابز مع يوتيوبرز اخرين وعاود ضربوا الصرف وعاود زادوا المشاهدين. اللهم هكا كلشي مستافد ولا غتحديات والسباب في ستوريات.
انا بغيت نضارب مع شي جن اصلا،
وهذه فرصه باش يبانوا الرياضيين اللي عندنا في البلاد احسن ما يحرقوا لبرا ويعبر البحر بالميداليات. تخيلوا معايا دابا مثلا شاخضه يتحدى زوج فلوق في شي مقابله رياضيه فوق الحلبه. اذا كمان في هذه الاثناء هذه كنربطوا الاتصال بالبطل انور الشاخضه باش نشوفوا الارتسامات ديالو حول هذه المباراه ديال القرن.
وانت جميل يتفاهم يطيح في الزلافه ولا يطير يمشي للسبيطار. تحداك اخويا جوج بلاك نطيف انا وياك فين ما بغيت. تاخذ غير في المغرب انت فهمتيني. اي حاجه بغيتيها نقسموا البلاصه نطيروا السما ولا في الارض، انا نتحداك اخويا نطيف انا وياك. واللي يتفاهم يجيب الزلافه اخي جوج بلاك.
والان كذلك كنربطوا الاتصال بزوز فلوق اللي بدا هو استعدادات لهذه المباراه القويه. تفضل زوز فلوق.
انا كنوجه رساله الاخ الشاخضه، تنتحدى ينزل عندي الرينغ باش نديرو كومبا بكل روح رياضيه وروح قتاليه. انا تنتحداك الساط.
اذا كما لاحظتوا معنا سيدتي انستي تم بيع العجل بنجاح. شفتوا كيفاش تحمستوا بغيتوا تحضروا المقابله ديال الشاخضه مع زوج فلوق. ايوا هذه راه استغلال الطاقه في شي حاجه اللي استفد منها كلشي. وعلاش ما عطيتيش راسك انت كمثال؟ مال انا انت وراك عارف الرياضه اللي عزيزه عليا انايا.
ويلي 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 ويلي
تغمس. الا بغيتوا تشوفوا المباراه ديال الشاخضه ضد زوج فلوق كتبوها لنا تحت في لي كومونتير باش نديروا الاحصائيات. حنا ما عندنا ما يدار غير نشريو السلوكه.
لا انا كنشجع ريكو دري محترم. ريكو
صافي السي على الراه دوينا وسالينا هذا الموضوع هذا.
غلب بادر هاري ومني غلبوا بقى فيه الحال. علاش بقى فيه الحال؟ بحال داك الفيلم ديال بريسلي مني كان طايف هو التقنوريس، مني كانت المشاه هي الاربعين.
المشاه هي الحكام؟
المشاه هي الاربعين.
نشوفوا هذا الفيديو هذا. هو تضرب لي راه الشاك نوريس كان لابس هايدوره بحال الجيري باربا، كان عنده الصدر ديال العطواني. ما تقولوش لي عاوتاني ما عرفتوش العطواني. ويلي
تصورني يا عطواني تصورني يا عطواني.
ايام هاد السيدات مجرحين كنا كنتقبلوا كل شيء. هنا كرافي ودفاع. وشوفوا المشا قداش هنا تقولوا عندها عامين وهنا تقولوا يلا شهر باش تزادت. اصلا فين كاين شي مشا حكام؟ ناري. اكبر كابوس هو انك تشوف هاد النوع ديال المزغبين كيكرط في الحمام، كيكرط صدرو.
تصورني يا عطوان.
واحد المره في الحمام عيط لي واحد الواحد كيصحاب ليا باغيين نحك ليه دارو بحال كاع الناس، حتى عطاني ماكينه ديال الحسانه وقال لي يا عافاك واش ممكن نضرب معاك هاد الزغيبات اللي اللور راه ما وصلتش ليهم. عرفتي هذوك الزغيبات اللور لقيتهم غلاض بحال الشطابه ديال السلك.
هو التقنوريس.
والمشكله داك الزغاب اللور ما كينفع في والو. قنفود. وفين غادا والحكم؟ سير الله يمسخكم في هاد النار. هذا صوت ديال المشاهده. هذا صوت ديال المشاهده. صافي عرفت الصوت ديال من. افلام قصيره ديال ولد الشرقي طبيعيه على هادشي.
Préparez-vous à une toute nouvelle version, une toute nouvelle sensation, une toute nouvelle expérience de trading. Rejoignez XM et demandez jusqu'à 10 500 $. Tradez avec un courtier plusieurs fois réglementé. Développez vos compétences avec une formation en direct gratuite. Retirez vos profits instantanément à tout moment. Obtenez une aide experte n'importe quand. Profitez de l'assistance personnelle de MWII et d'une large gamme de produits. Téléchargez XM.
وقت الأزمات كلنا بندور على مصدر دخل إضافي. في تاجر هنساعدك خطوة بخطوة تحقق أول أرباح ليك في السوق السعودي والإماراتي. هقول لك إزاي تحقق أول أوردرات ليك مع تاجر عن طريق إن إحنا هنعمل مع بعض أكونت يوكان نرفع عليه منتجاتنا ونحقق بيه أول أرباح. هقول لك كمان إزاي نعمل أكونت تيك توك وإزاي نربط البيكسل بتاعنا وإزاي نعمل أول كامبينز لينا سواء كانت ليد جنريشن أو كونفرجن، وكذلك إن إحنا نكريت أكونت سناب شات.
أنا مالية الفقراء ومالية الأرواح. أنا كنهدي روحي باش كنعتق الأرواح. والهطايا راه كيهزوا 4 3 الله عطاني القوة.
عندنا واحد القادوس سيدي مو والله ما يشحال لها.
ناري يا خويا حنا ما كنشجعوش بعضيات. تحديتي ريكو وانت عارف راسك ما غتربحش ما يشجعوك. حليت شي قادوس بيديك تا هو ما يشجعوكش عليه.
عندنا واحد القادوس سيدي مو والله ما يشحال لها.
شوفوا الشوفه اللي دار فيه علال. كون غوتات شي مشا حكام كلها خلطوا. ولا انت فليس الزغاب ديال صدرو.
بغينا يا الشعار ديال المسيره الخضراء ولا الشعار ديال الصحراء المغربيه.
ناري 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 حصلوا ناري حصلوا. العيون عينيا والساقيان حمرانيه.
انا النشيد الوطني حافظ النشيد الوطني.
صافي راه السيد ما حافظوش بلا احراج اصاحبي. سولو في القوادس الجعابي السباسه.
حافظ النشيد الوطني.
سير انا نقول لكم واحد القضيه. الله هو اللي كيسالينا.
فوالا علاش قلب الموضوع.
كاين الله هو اللي كيعطي الارزاق للشعب.
دار لي داكشي ديال جوج معقوده وواحد السردين في الفلام قليل ديال كلشي الا البصله.
هادي اش كتعني؟ هادي كتعني بان راه كاين الرجال، كاين الرجال واقفين على الصح.
ماشي هادي هي ديز فيتاس حتى لا صاحبي. كاينه هي هو هنايا صغيره وكاينه كطولها فهمتي كطولها ديس فيتاس فهمتي.
انت كتشجعوا انه يتبارز مع ريكو.
حنا خايشه من الاول واخا ديك لانطرينا هذوك كتورينا راك منفوخه باليباري ما نطراسيش.
ولا جينا الصراحه هي منفوخه ولكن واش بليبره ولا ماشي بليبره الله اعلم.
تلاقينا بهاد الدريات هادو اللي تا هما مواطنات ايطاليات
ولكن منفوخه او منفوخين على سبيل الذكر.
خاصك تكون مخدوم مفتول وتكون عندك الفراكه ويكون عندك ستر لي هونز تكون. انا في الحقيقه اي بلاصه كندخل ليها كنحط رجلي كتجي الشتا. اي بلاصه كندخل ليها كتجي الشتا.
انا جيت هنا لطنجه وطنجه ليا نقيو.
جيت تاكلي وتشربي وانا حرارت عليا ونعيط انا على سالمني. وانت اللي كويتيني مولاي.
شكون كان يقول باللي 2021 غتبدا عندنا بالكوارث ولا حتى 2020؟ شكون كان يقول باللي غدوز كحله زحلان فيها ما يتشاف؟ الايام قلتوا لها 2019 كانت زاهيه.
ويلي 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 ويلي
الحمد لله دابا مقاد. لا موجدين، خاص غادي باش غادي. يلاه ما ضربتناش معاك كتوصل حتى شي غادي.
كانت زاهيه محرمات. ما كانوا لا ماسكيت لا والو، كلشي كان ضارب لي بال.
بون انيفرسير.
وكنتبادلوا الهواء وكنتبادلوا الريوح.
والله تا شوف المغرب زاهي.
كنا ملاصقين بحال الدبابه الثلاثه، شي فوق شي.
المغرب زاهي وزاهيه فيه وحق. شو هاد الوجوه كلهم فرحانين. شو
هاليان
الله يدخل هذا العام بالصحة والسلامة وكاع الخوت اللي تشردوا في كاع الكريانات. الله يدخل عليهم بخير.
اصبر اوليدي، البلاد كاملة تشردات في 2020.
كنا في مارسي وبارلو فرونسي.
حنايا دابا دخلنا في العقد الثالث من الألفية، دخلنا في 2020 بغينا.
A few moments later.
ورا كلشي شافع
2020 بغينا ندخل علينا بالصحة والسلامة، ويا ربي تعطف على المغاربة كاملين، يا ربي تعطف عليهم، واللي مديوم يا ربي تفرحوا، واللي عنده شي كهرباء يا ربي تيسر ليه، واللي ما خدامش يا ربي يخدم، وتنحيي رجال الأمن اللي ساهرين معنا هاد الليلة بالأمن ديالهم بالزين.
بديتي كتولف العفريته.
All that food in there, and you got my man outside starving. This is messed up. Whoa, not the baby. Oh, hell no. Get away from the baby. Man, they're everywhere. All right, let's go. Hold that door. Yeah, get the strap. Light him up, boy. Go. Get out of there. Get out of there. Yeah, she's on.
الملاحين هذوك العالفات فتناهم، احنا دخلنا في الجوجات.
ان شاء الله كاملين اخوة البلاد 2020 المغرب غير خوا.
والله ما كذبتي بحال علمك بها الله.
ونتمناو 2020 تدخل بالفلوس ودنيا باطمه. نتمناو يطلق الله صراحه.
توقعات في محلها
2020 ان شاء الله.
ويلي البلا هادي.
الله يدخل علينا بالصحه والسلامه ولا يدخل علينا بالرزق.
ما تغوتش.
A few moments later.
اخرها مشات لي 20 درهم من جيبي في هذيك 2019 اللي خرجها لينا. الله
يدخل عنا ان شاء الله بالصحه والراحه والفلوس ان شاء الله. راه ضروري الشعب خاصو الفلوس، ما كاين الفلوس راه ما كاين والو صاحبي.
كان عندنا الامانه، نوع من الثقه في النفس.
يدخل بالصحه والسلامه على الجميع ديال المغاربه كاملين.
السلام عليكم. وعليكم السلام ورحمه الله تعالى وبركاته.
الامنيه ديالي في سنه 2020 بغيت انا نخدم
صحيحه ورزيق باش نعيشوا تنموتوا.
هذه الحكومه تقدم استقالتها لانها فاشله.
وشي راجل يكون حرش.
كدوي على الخبزه خالتي ولا شنو؟
بلدي ديال اللبن والزبده وزيت العود والخبز.
كلشي باغي يغمس ويضرب فلافل حمص. هذه كانت الامنيات
ديالنا. غندوز احسن واحسن، غندوز احسن عام ان شاء الله.
صافي وبارك
والله العظيم غندوز احسن.
كانت هذه الامنيات ديال الناس وهما كيستقبلوا 2020. ومن بعد ما جات 2020
انا مش عارف انا بدي من انا مش انا.
هاد الكوفيد خرجت على كلشي.
اخي بحاجه هي الكوفيد
يعني دازت عندي خايبه بشكل واعر كاع.
دازت صعيبه المغاربه على العالم كامل.
ودعتوها برعب.
انا يا مرض
دازت علينا كحله زحله
قاصحه شويه صعيبه.
خويا 2020 داز كحله زحله.
داز شويه صعيبه.
كنقول بقينا كنديروا فيه والو اصلا.
حتى حاجه ما دازونا في هذا العام. داز حابسه الدار ما كاين ما يدار.
داز لينا كحله.
زيرنا خويا بزاف.
كنا جادين اعتقارنا.
كل معاناه.
الكحطه ديال بصح.
ما داز زوينه كل مشاكل.
بغينا الشر، بغينا الخير، بغينا الشر، بغينا الخير. الشر حتى هو مرحبا به.
الشراب يديروا ليه 10 دراهم شي مكان. الشراب راه في انواع، في انواع. ارخص واحد ديال الروج دايرين ليه هما 720 ريال.
واش في اخباركم باللي كاين فلكيين ومنجمين اللي توقعوا هادشي اللي وقع في 2020 قبل ما يوقع بعام ولا عامين؟
من 2019 ل 2022 مصايب وكوارث على كوكب الارض، والعالم سيكون في حاله غليان وتاهب.
يا حمادي.
ونيا أطمة في سنة 2020 غادا تكون بالنسبة ليا هي بداية خيبة الأمل.
اش غنديروا حنا بالتوقعات هذه؟ عطينا القاصح، عطينا المفيد.
الشيخ الطاكس، كيفاش كتشوف انت هاد الفنانه يعني 2020؟
ديك الشهرة اللي كانت عطات غادا تضاعف اللي بعد.
واش من طراك وبغينا المفيد في التوقعات؟ مثلا واش طوطو غيخرج الالبوم ديالو ولا غير داير لينا مقلب؟ ولا مثلا واش غتحقق الاسطوره وغيخرج الضو من الماء والماء من الضو؟
تحلوا الروبيني هنا باش على الضو.
نديروا حنا بالطراكس.
دور كبير لملك المغرب في مكافحه الفساد، ونرى اسماء مغربيه كبيره في السجن، وحصول اصلاحات مع تغيير الحكومه المغربيه بامر من الملك المغربي.
فوالا اللهم زدنا اصلاحات.
سعد العثماني كان عليه الخطوط ديالو كانت غادا تنتهي في 2019، لكن ما غاديش يكمل في 2020، غادي يوقف في البدايه واما في الوسط
قبل 2021.
قبل 2021.
لا 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 هذه زعقات راه مازال مطول معنا. تحقق ان شاء الله الاسطوره ويخرج الضو من الماء.
المغرب سعد المجرد موهبه نحو التالق وراح يكون هدف انتقامي.
صبر سعد المجرد خليه لينا حنا غنقول لك المستقبل ديال سعد المجرد. ضمص ديك الكارطه.
قلب سعيد المجرب هاد خمامه باش يطير الله. قلبوا على الجماع وزهروا خماموا على وراق يطير الله، خليه مقلق ومغير.
خلينا من المنجمين وصحاب الفلس. 6 ريال طرف ديال الجورنال تجبد لك الدوزي ديالو
مقلق، ولكن مع واحد السيد واقف معاه.
وفين بانت لك حنا مقلق في هاد 5 دراهم؟
مقلق.
راه انت اللي بديتي كتزراوطي علينا هنا.
والطبله وقف لي عليها الراجل عريض الكتاف والراجل الابيض ومعجون اللون.
نفس الديسك حافظه اللي جا كتعارضوا عليه.
باقي يسر ليه الله الامور على وجه جديد.
والله خالتي كون درتي شي طبيله ديال التقاشر والسوتيه ما تحسن لي، ولا طبيله ديال الفازلين علاش لا؟ انا كديز فيتاس. لا صاحبي هز الفوق هز هكا. فوالا الفوق هكا الفوق ديما لعب الفوق.
قايد والمقدم، قايد قال المقدم خاصنا الخدام، ما قاليش عندي الفلوس، قال لي 72. ركب على العود ومشى يجري.
المعقول زيدش
مشى يجري قال لي شنو خاص؟ الشيخ ونقصر، وقاليش عندي الفلوس، قال لي 72. ها 72.
القايد لما كانش القصاره ما يخدمش.
ركب على العود مشى يجري درن.
وجري عنده هذا المقدم هذا.
قال لي جبتي الماكله، قال لي جبتها، هاج الطواجن ديالك، هاج الطواجن ديالي. القايد عجباتو الدريه هذه بغى ياخذ.
والله تعرف هذا النوع هذا بالله كيكون حافظ كارطه كامله، كتجي كتلعب معاه كيقول لك النوامر اللي في يديك وانت باقي ما حطيتيهم، والوالد واحد من هذا النوع هذا. شنو هذا؟
كنتحداك مايا، كنتحداك في هاد الرقصه الشعبيه.
وهادو ما تحديش، خلينا من ريكو ولا من الاولي ولا كون وكل.
انا لست براقصه، انا ماشي راقصه نهائيا، ولكن بغيت نتحدى الراقصه مايا.
ماشي مشكل، انا كنشجعوا اي واحد يلاه بادي كنخليوه يتيق في راسو. المهم هو انه كاين بوت الزهو وموت النشاط،
شي اللي تيجري ليا في الدم. والاغلبيه تاع البنات في الغربه كيموتوا على الشعبي وكيموتوا على الرقص.
هجوم وتحيه للجاليه المغربيه.
نديرو شويه الشرقي.
شرقي وغربي ليا مع راسي، ما كاينش الجرام ديال المشكل.
نديرو الشرقي.
سيداتي انساتي وصلنا لنهايه الحلقه ديالنا. ما تنساوش تكتبوا لنا في الكومونتير تحت واش بغيتوا النزال ديال الشاخده دا زوز بلوك، وما تنساوش الحلقه ديال هوميز راه شاعله فيها العافيه والضغط تم.
ويلي 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 وهلا تعالى واسعة
يا ابني انا ركنت ونزلت.
الحمد لله على السلامة يا باشا، وكل سنة وانت طيب.
واحدة ارد على انهي فيهم؟
الحمد لله على السلامة يا باشا.
الله يسلمك يا سيدي.
طب كل سنة وانت طيب بقى.
وانت طيب يا حبيبي. بمناسبة ايه بقى؟
عيد ميلادي يا باشا. يا باشا دي محفوظات كده بنقولها عشان تديني فلوس، او تديني الموبايل
ده قسط والله. ده انا بقى قسطت بقالي 92 شهر.
ربنا يعينك يا باشا. طب بس اسمعك تسيب لي المفتاح عشان ده باركينج.
ماشي، بس خلي بالك على العربيه والنبي لحسن دي قسط
برضو.
والله بقسطها بقالي 290 شهر.
يا ساتر يا رب. طب يا باشا لو في حاجه مهمه خدها معاك، انا ماليش دعوه.
لا مفيش حاجه مهمه ولا حاجه، ده بس لابتوب وساعتين ومفتاح بيتي اللي في زايد، فيلا دورين بس ايه لقطه. قسطها على 52 سنه.
52 سنه؟ ده البركه في الاولاد بقى، هم اللي يكملوا ان شاء الله.
جودي ويزن حبايبي مقسطهم برضه على 9 شهور بدون فايده. لعلمك امهم كانت عايزاهم على 7 شهور، بس عشان حبيبتي خليهم 9.
ربنا يعينك والله يا باشا. بس ما تاخدنيش في سؤال،
انت في حاجه بتاعتك؟ في حاجه ملكك؟ عندي. ايوه. عندي اقساط. لا حول ولا قوه الا بالله. طب ربنا معاك يا باشا. طب بقول لك امرني، كل سنه وانت طيب. ليه، هو عيد ميلادي ولا ايه؟ مستر سايس، مستر سايس، تعالى يا باشا. طب تعالى عليا، تعالى عليا واسعه. أعزائي المشاهدين، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أهلا بكم في حلقة جديدة من برنامج الدحيح. عزيزي المشاهد، ألف مبروك. بعد سنين قضيتها في التعليم، أخيرا اتخرجت من الجامعة واشتغلت أول وظيفة ليك، وهتبدأ أخيرا رحلتك في إنك تكون نفسك. يلا يا بطل شد حيلك، عايزين نفرح بيك. لكن الحقيقة يا عزيزي إن أنت صدمت من الأسعار. بعد حسبة بسيطة اكتشفت إن أنت محتاج تقعد 15 سنة تحوش عشان تجيب شقة وتفرشها. ده 15 ده بيست كيس، أو 5 سنين عشان تجيب عربية، أو سنة عشان تجيب آيفون 13 برو ماكس. بس أنا مش عايزك تيأس. إيه يا أبو حميد هتسلفني؟ يا عزيزي ده منظر واحد ممكن يسلفك، ده انا عايز اللي يسلف. بس يا عزيزي الحمد لله المؤسسات البنكيه بتدينا حاجه اسمها التقسيط. عايز تجيب عربيه ادفع مقدم 20% والباقي تقسيط على 7 سنوات. عايز تجيب شقه ادفع مقدم 7% والباقي على 10 سنوات. مش بس كده، البنك بيضحي، بيقول لك امسك الكريدت كارد دي اشتري منها اللي انت عايزه، بقاله، هدوم، سفر بره، وبقى ادفع على مهلك. فانت حسبتها مع نفسك ولقيت ان فكره القسط دي مش وحشه. في التقسيط انا هحرم نفسي من جزء من مرتبي لمده 10 15 سنه عشان اجيب الحاجات دي واستفيد بيها دلوقتي. بس انا كده كنت هحرم نفسي لو كنت هحوش على الاقل في التقسيط. بنبسط بالحاجات دي دلوقتي بدل ما استنى 10 15 سنه تانيين. الحقيقه يا عزيزي ان حبك لهذا التقسيط مش جديد. في دول كامله التقسيط جزء اساسي من الدي ان ايه الاستهلاكي بتاعها. خلي يا عزيزي يعملوا تحليل دي ان ايه للدول ويقول لها معلش انت بتستهلكي كتير، فتقوم قايله لهم اقسم بالله ما استهلاكي. امريكا مثلا في 2018 وصل عدد حسابات الكريدت كارد فيها حوالي 420 مليون. بنتكلم في 7 من كل 10 امريكان معاهم على الاقل واحد كريدت كارد. خليني اقول لك يا عزيزي المشاهد الجميل ان تعداد امريكا دلوقتي 330 مليون، يعني عدد الفيز اللي موجوده في البلد اكتر من الاشخاص. بلاش دي، شوف مثلا الستودنت لونز، القروض اللي بتتاخد عشان تدفع بيها مصاريف الجامعه وصلت ل 1.3 تريليون في 2014. عدد الناس اللي واخده ستودنت لونز وصل ل 44 مليون. الحقيقه يا عزيزي كخبير اقتصادي يعني بقول لك ان مفيش مشكله في فكره الدفع الاجل او التقسيط في حد ذاتها، بالعكس دي بتنشط الاقتصاد على المدى القصير. القوه الشرائيه بتاعتك كمستهلك بتزيد، فحركه البيع والشراء تزيد. طب وعلى المدى الطويل مين اللي هيسدد الكلام ده؟ ما تشغلش بالك يا عزيزي. على راي جون مينارد كينز in the long run we are all dead، او زي ما بتقول ستي يحيي النهارده وموتني بكره. حتى لو الموت ده جه في صوره اقوى ازمه العالم مر بيها في اخر 80 سنه، الازمه الماليه العالميه اللي رجت العالم سنه 2008. وعشان نفهم اللي حصل هجيب لك الموضوع من اوله خالص، من قفاه. سنة 1933 يتولى الحكم الرئيس الأمريكي ثيودور روزفلت. هذا الرجل يا عزيزي كان جاي خلال أزمة اقتصادية، وبيظهر معاه حاجة اسمها نظام التمويل العقاري بمفهومه الحديث المورجج. المورجج ببساطة يا عزيزي هو قرض بتاخده بهدف شراء عقار زي بيت أو حتة أرض. بتدفع من 10 ل 20% من قيمة العقار وتقسط باقي المبلغ والفوائد على مدة من 20 ل 30 سنة مع نفسك بقى براحتك. عادة القرض بيكون بضمان البيت أو الأرض اللي أنت واخد أصلا عشان قرض. يعني لو جيت في النص وما عرفتش تكمل، البنك او القارض بياخد البيت ويقول لك خلاص شكرا مع السلامه، هناخد احنا البيت لو تعثرت، ولو عوزت حاجه ده الكارد بتاعي. والنظام ده نجح مع مرور الوقت. سنه 1940 كانت نسبه الامريكان اللي عندهم بيوت حوالي 40%. سنه 1980 النسبه دي عليت ل 65%. واحده واحده بتتحول امريكا من بلد مستاجرين لبلد من ملاك البيوت. الموضوع فضل على وضعه بسيط، ما فيهوش غير جهتين: المقترض اللي عايز يشتري بيت، والمقرض اللي بيسلف الناس فلوس اللي هو في الحاله دي البنك. وفضل الوضع كذلك يا عزيزي لحد ما حصلت ثوره جديده في التمويل العقاري زودت اطراف المعادله. في اوائل 1980 اتاثر قطاع الاس ان ال بشكل كبير جدا. هذا القطاع السيفنج اند لونز، التحويش والقروض، كان اكبر ممول للتمويل العقاري وقتها. خليني اقول لك يا عزيزي ان كان القائمين على هذه الصناعه طول عمرهم عندهم موديل مشهور قوي اسمه 362. استلف المستثمرين واديهم فايده 3%، اسلف اللي عايزين يشتروا بيوت بفايده 6%، اروح العب جولف الساعه 2 الظهر. المشكله يا عزيزي في هذا الوقت ان امريكا في الثمانينات كانت بتعاني من تضخم عالي جدا، وهذا الموديل وقع في ظل سياسات التقشف اللي كانت الدوله متبنياها عشان تقدر تحد من التضخم. الفكره يا عزيزي ان المستثمر بدل ما يحط فلوسه في تمويل عقاري ويجي له 3%، طب ما انا احطها في البنك ويجي لي نسبه توصل 15 او 20% وقتها. طبعا كل ده خلى الصناعه تنهار. وقتها بعض اعضاء الكونجرس تدخلوا عشان ينقذوا الصناعه دي من انها تنهار. ده لان تملك البيوت والاراضي فكره قويه جدا في الثقافه الامريكيه وجزء من الامريكان دريم، وغالبا ما بيتم توظيف الفكره دي سياسيا. من ضمن شويه قرارات مررها الكونجرس وقتها لاحياء هذه الصناعه كان السماح للمؤسسات اللي شغاله في مجال التمويل العقاري انها تقدر تبيع القروض بتاعتها. ويظهر هنا واحد من اهم الاشخاص في هذه القصه اللي ساهموا من غير ما يقصدوا في الازمه الاقتصاديه بتاعت كام 2008، لويس رانييري. عمك لويس ده يا عزيزي كان شغال في بنك استثماري اسمه سالمون بروز، وكان رئيس قسم التمويل العقاري وقتها. راني قال لك ده واضح ان هنا في مكسب حلو من بيع الديون دي، ليه ما نعملوش؟ فانشا نوع من الاوراق الماليه هو حاجه باسم المورجج باكت سكيورتيز MBS. كان الطبيعي ان انا واحد عايز اشتري بيت اروح للبنك اخد قرض وافضل ادفع للبنك كل شهر فلوس بقى من مرتبي كل شهر لحد ما اسدد القرض ده. بيجي البنك يقول لك ايه ده؟ طب انا كده سلفت كل فلوسي، كده ما ينفعش، انا محتاج يبقى معايا كاش امشي بيه نفسي لان كل فلوسي في السوق مسلفها للناس. فالبنك بيعمل ايه؟ ياخد الورق اللي بيقول ان الناس دي مديونالي ب 100 مليون دولار بفايده معينه، واقوم بايع الورق ده لمستثمر برقم طبعا اعلى شويه من 100 مليون عشان اكون كسبت. وهنا الطرف الثالث اللي اشترى من البنك له حق ان هو يلم فايده 100,000 دولار كل شهر. الطرف الثالث ده يا عزيزي غالبا ما بيكون بنك استثماري زي اللي كان رانييري شغال فيه. البنك الاستثماري بياخد الديون اللي هو اشتراها دي ويقوم بقى حاططها كلها في علبه كبيره، ويقسم العلبه دي زي الكيكه كده، تشيك 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 تشيك، حتت متساويه. العلبه دي يا عزيزي بيجي لها كل شهر الاقساط بتاعه كل الديون. في المثل بتاعنا ده الشركه بيجي لها 100,000 دولار في الشهر. لو قلنا العلبه متقسمه ل 100 حته فكل حته ليها 1000 دولار. البنك الاستثماري يعمل ايه بقى؟ يبيع الحتت الصغيره اللي احنا مقسمينها دي للمستثمرين. خد يا مستثمر. فانا كمستثمر بشتري حته من العلبه، هذه الحته بتجيب لي مبلغ كل شهر. طبعا في ناس معاها اكتر عايز تشتري حتتين ثلاثه، هنقول له لا، هنقول له اتفضل بالله انا مش شايفها، واللي معاه يشتري العلبه كلها الله يبارك له. الحته دي يا عزيزي زيها زي شهادات الاستثمار اللي انت بتشتريها من البنك، او لو مثلا تشتري اسهم او سندات في شركه بهدف بقى ان هي تجيب لك عائد بشكل دوري. الفكره بقى يا عزيزي ان الحتت دي بقت نوع مقنن من الاوراق الماليه. واحد يقول لي ابو حميد معلش ممكن تعيد تاني القصه ده مش فاهم حاجه. عزيزي طب عيد تاني ليه؟ ما انت على اليوتيوب. فبقت الحتت دي نوع مقنن من الاوراق الماليه اللي بيتم بقى التداول فيها، واحد في امريكا يبيعها لواحد في اليابان، واحد في الصين يبيعها لمن كوريا، زي اي نوع من الاوراق الماليه. وهي دي يا عزيزي ببساطه MBS، نوع من الاوراق الماليه اللي بيتم تداوله وهو مدعوم في الاساس من قرض متاخد بهدف تمويل شراء عقار. حد بيشتري بيت ياخد قرض من البنك، البنك يسلفه هذا القرض، بدل ما البنك يقعد يستنى بقى 30 سنه ياخد الفلوس، لا انا هبيع اللوكشه دي لبنك استثماري. البنك الاستثماري ياخد هذه القروض اللي بتجيب له 100,000 دولار في الشهر ويفضل يقسمها حتت ويبيعها بقى للمستثمرين ويتم تداولها حوالين العالم، والناس تاخدها عشان تقدر تعمل دخل شهري معين. فهمت؟ رغم ان موضوع MBS ده يا عزيزي كان ماشي كويس، استثمار امن ما فيهوش خطوره، بس كان هناك مستثمرين شايفين المخاطره بتاعت حاجه زي كده كبيره عليهم. ده عشان معلش يعني ممكن الناس اللي بتدفع اقساط بيوتها يتعثروا، معلش مش معايا الشهر ده والشهر اللي جاي اتطرد من شغلته، مصطلح اسمه ديفولتد اون لون، وابقى انا كده كمستثمر لبست في الحيطه. حتى لو خدت البيت، ما هو البيت مرهون بالقرض، فانا لو ما سددتش القرض هاخد انا البيت، فمش شرط اقدر ابيع البيت ده بالقيمه اللي البنك كان مسلفه عليها. فهنا بعض المستثمرين يقولوا لك قللي العائد شويه بس خليني في المضمون قوي. وعلى الناحيه الثانيه كان هناك مستثمرين شايفين ان المورجج باك سكيورتيز دول العائد قليل قوي بتاعها. ايه يا عم الملل ده؟ عايزين نزود الريسك شويه ونخلي العائد يعلى. وهنا يا عزيزي ظهر، عشان تعرف بس ان عالم الفاينانس ده كله اختراعات، في فاينانشال انوفيشنز طبعا احيانا بتلبسنا في الحيط زي ما حصل في 2008، ولكن ما علينا. ومن هنا ظهر مشتق اخر من MBS وهو ما يسمى بالCDO Collateralized Debt Obligation. ايه يا ابو عميد CD-ROM ده؟ CDO يا عزيز ركز. مش في ناس شايفه ان الموضوع ده فيه مخاطره جامده، وناس شايفه ان الموضوع ده ممل قوي. طب حلو قوي، انا ادي كل واحد على قد دماغه. انا يا عم كان عندي علبه حاطط فيها الديون كلها، هات يا عم العلبه دي افرزها لي. في ديون لناس كويسه بتشتغل شغلانات كويسه، الناس بتسدد في مواعيدها، كل حاجه ماشيين بالمسطره، دي ديون ناس حلوه، مفيش واحد هيديفولت غالبا يعني، حطها لي على جنب. والديون اللي فرص عدم سدادها اعلى حطها لي على جنب تاني. فهنا يا عزيزي انت عملت منتجات تانية لكل واحد بقى ودماغه. والله انا عايز حاجه فيها مخاطره اعلى بس مكسب اعلى، فخد الناس اللي ممكن ما تدفعش، عشان كده بنحط لهم فايده اعلى عشان ممكن ما يدفعوش. طب انا عايز حاجه امنه وسهله ومضمونه، خد اللي هم الناس اللي منضبطه بتدفع من ميعادها، بس الفايده طبعا عليهم قليله لان هم مضمونين. هديك من الفرز الاول كويس واحط لك يا عم عائد عليها 5% زي بعض. لكن انت بقى روش وعايز حاجه خطر والفوائد فيها عاليه، اديك من الفرز الثالث واحط لك عليها عائد 20%. لو انت راجل متوسط وهادي اديك حاجه من الفرز الثاني واحط لك عليها فايده 10%. في الاستثمار يا عزيزي كل ما الريسك بيعلى المخاطره بتعلى، كل ما المكسب بيعلى. كل ما تبقى سيف اكتر كل ما المكسب بيقل. في الحقيقه الام بي اس يا عزيزي وخصوصا السي دي اوز مش بس خلقت فرص متنوعه للاستثمار فبقت تخلي كل مستثمر يختار المخاطره اللي تعجبه، لا دي كمان خلقت فرص تمويل عقاري جديده لناس كان صعب عليها ان هي تقدر تاخد القرض ده من البنك عشان مش بينطبق عليها كل الشروط. بس دلوقتي كله بقى بتمن والجنيه غلب الكارنيه. ظروفك مش ولا بد، هديك قرض يا عم تشتري البيت بس هاخد منك فايده 20% بدل ال6 اللي كان بياخدهم البنك. وروح يا عم انت اشتري البيت ولا يهمك ونشتري احسن منك في يالا. ما تشيلش هم الموافقه، خلاص بقى في مستثمرين يشيلوا عنك يا عم. دلوقتي يا عزيزي المستثمرين بقى اللي بيعملوا حاجات امنه وبياخدوا نسبه قليله، كانت الحاجات اللي ممكن يستثمروا فيها محدوده. انت عارف يا عزيزي المستثمر دي بتاكله، يعني عايز انواع وفرايتيز وتوبينجز وسوسز. يحب المستثمر ما ياكلش من قدامه بس، يحب يغرف طبق سلطه ابوتايزر. طب يا عم المستثمر انت اللي زانق نفسك في حته الامان، فك كيس شويه عشان تاخد مخاطره وتاخد فايده حلوه. يا ريت والله كان ينفع عزيزي المشاهد يعمل كده. ساعات كتير المستثمرين كانوا بيبقوا متحجمين، وده لان بعض المستثمرين كانت الدوله بتفرض عليهم نوع الاستثمارات اللي ينفع يدخلوا فيها. يعني مثلا لما انا بقول كلمه مستثمر، المستثمر ده ممكن يبقى صندوق المعاشات اللي بيستثمر الناس فلوسها عشان يقدر يجيب لها فلوس لما تتقاعد. فده الدوله تقوم قايله لك هي ما ينفعش تاخد مخاطره لان دي فلوس الناس كلها. كان واحد يبقى عنده 60 سنه ويكتشف ان الفلوس اللي محوشها راحت. فتيجي هنا مين بقى تخش في المشهد دلوقتي؟ شركات التامين، وعلى راسهم يا عزيزي احد رعاة مانشستر يونايتد السابقين AIG. اي نعم يا عزيزي اللوجو بتاعهم كان وش السعد على بطولات مانشستر يونايتد، ولكن يبدو ان هو بقى نفسه ما كانش فيه سعد. المهم شركه AIG بتاعت التامين دي كانت تقول للمستثمر بص يا عم استثمر براحتك في اللي انت عايزه وما يهمكش من المخاطره، انا هامن لك الاستثمار بتاعك بس هاخد جزء من العائد، بس هامنه لك وانا اكبر شركه تامين خد بالك. يعني لو الاستثمار ده المفروض يجيب لك 10% انا هاخد 1%، ولو حصل حاجه وخسرت فلوس انا هدفعها لك يا عم، ما انا شركه تامين بتدفع لي فلوس كل شويه، باخد من ناس كتيره بحيث ان لو واحد عمل حادثه من فلوس الناس الكتيره دي ادفع ويتبقى لنا شويه صغيرين مكسب اخدهم. فانا هامن على الاسهم بتاعتك، على العقارات، على السكيورتيز بتاعتك، كل حاجه تامن انت في يد شركه التامين. وهنا يا عزيزي يتخلق منتج مالي جديد اسمه كريدت ديفولت سوابس، وهي ببساطه وثيقه تامين على الاستثمار. وهنا يا عزيزي المستثمر بقى ممكن يخش في اي استثمار ايا كانت مخاطرته، يستفيد من العائد المادي الكبير وفي نفس الوقت يشتري CDS تضمن له الاستثمار بتاعه. كده يا عزيزي يبقى مسك العصايه من النص. فاهم طبعا الفكره؟ ها واحد يقول لي يا ابو حميد طب انا اعرف ازاي الاستثمار ده فيه مخاطره قد ايه وعامله ازاي؟ اقول لك يا عزيزي ان زي درجاتك في المدرسه وفي الجامعه بيكون في درجات لكل استثمار. كريدت ريتنج بيحدد نسبه المخاطره اللي فيه. اللي كان بيحط هذا التقييم المصحح بتاع هذه الاستثمارات كان اسمه كريدت ريتنج ايجنسيز، اشهرهم كان موديز، ستاندرد اند بور، فيتش. فمثلا التقييم بتاع AAA معناه ان الاستثمار ده فرز اول والمخاطره فيه قليله، مضمون ان شاء الله برضه عزيزي عشان ما نلحقش. بينما مثلا تقييم CCC يعني انت وحظك بقى، ريسك عالي بس مكسب عالي برضه، انت واختياراتك. طبعا يا عزيزي انت دلوقتي بتقول اللعبه كبرت قوي يا ابو حميد، احنا كنا ماشيين كويس والناس عماله تاخد بس من البنك، ودلوقتي الاطراف عماله تخش وتزيد وبقى في طرق جديده ومختلفه للاستثمار، واللي يستثمر 4-2-3-1 و4-4-2 دايموند، وشويه شويه نلاقي مورينيو دخل فيها كباتن الله. وعشان كده خلينا نراجع الموضوع بسرعه. عندنا ناس خدت قروض عشان تشتري بيوت، عندنا بنوك باعت القروض دي لبنوك استثمار، بنوك الاستثمار قامت مجمعه القروض دي تك 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 وطرحتها للناس تستثمر فيها. جت شركات التامين وبعض البنوك قالت لك هات نسبه من الربح وخد تامين على استثمارك، لو حصل حاجه للاستثمار هشيله انا يا عم. واللي كان قاعد بيقيم الاستثمارات دي او بمعنى اصح بيقول للمستثمر العائد بتاعك هيرجع لك بنسبه كام. فهمت السايكل يا عزيزي؟ ايه بقى اللي حصل في 2008 في اواخر التسعينات واوائل الالفينات؟ كان سوق العقارات في امريكا مغري مغري جدا للاستثمار. كان في ناس بتشتري بيوت وتسقعها وتعمل فلوس كويسه. ما بين 1996 ل 2006 اسعار البيوت تضاعفت في امريكا، وبما ان سوق العقارات كان ماشي ساعتها، فبالتالي الام بي اس او المورجج باك سكيورتيز دي كان استثمار كويس وبيعمل فلوس رايقه، لان الاسعار العقار عماله تزيد. فانت حتى لو الشخص اللي اديته القرض ما دفعش، هتاخد البيت وتبيعه وتكسب يا معلم. ده انت عزيزي اكشلي من مصلحتك ان هو ما يدفعش، لان قيمه البيوت عماله تعلى. المستثمرين هنا بداوا يجيبوا الموضوع ده، وابتدى حجم الاستثمارات فيها يزيد بشكل كبير، وده لسبب بسيط جدا. هم كانوا شايفين دي فرصه استثماريه كويسه مقارنه بالمخاطره اللي فيها. يعني مثلا الطبيعي في السوق ان الاستثمار اللي المخاطره فيه AA بيجيب 10%، ده عزيزي بقى كان AA وبيجيب 12، وكانت بالنسبه للمستثمر يوم يعني ما تطبل وتبوظ خالص، واللي واخد القرض مش هيعرف يسدد، ياخد هو البيت ويبيعه ويكسب فيه برنس. ما هي يا عم البيوت عماله تغلى، الموضوع ابتدى يكبر والفلوس تكتر، والمستثمرين بقوا عايزين يحطوا فلوس زياده في الام بي اس. طب يا عم المورجج اصلا خلصت، نشوف تاني زود. خليني اقول لك يا عزيزي ان الطبيعي لما البنك بيسلف حد عشان يشتري بيت كان بيبص على شويه حاجات كده، اهمهم زي كريدت سكور اللي هو تصنيفك الائتماني. ده حاجه البنك بيعرفها من خلال معاملاتك البنكيه، تاريخك عامل ازاي فيها، بتسدد اللي عليك في ميعادك ولا لا، بتاخد مرتب قد ايه، لما بتاخد قروض بتدفعها في وقت عامل ازاي، عشان يقدر يضمن انك بدرجه ما هتسدد القرض اللي عليك على مدار 20 25 سنه. الحاجات دي يا عزيزي كانت مهمه جدا في حاجه زي التمويل العقاري. فاللي حصل ان عشان بقى المستثمرين عايزين من ده اكتر، وخلاص خلصنا الناس الكويسه، والبنوك بقى عايزه تزود حجم التمويل العقاري، عشان كده ابتدت تقلل شويه بشويه من المعايير اللي حطها عشان واحد ياخد قرض، وتوسعت فيما يعرف بالسب برايم مورجج ليندنج. ودي يا عزيزي ببساطه شديده قروض بتديها البنوك لافراد مش بينطبق عليهم الشروط الطبيعيه قوي، في سبيل انها تاخد فايده اعلى. طب تعالى انت كده والله لا بشتغل شغلانه ولسه ما كونتش نفسي وما بدفعش الفلوس بشكل مظبوط ومش عارف ايه، بس ان شاء الله هترزق يعني. طب تعالى هديك قرض بس هاخد منك فايده اعلى عشان انت مش مضمون، عشان لو خيشتك رودك من ودان زي ما قلنا كده، كله بتمن، وانا كمان باخد ريسك واسلفك حق اطلب عائد اكبر. كان في الوقت ده مع بدايه 2003 اي حد كان ممكن ياخد قرض، وظهر يا عزيز مصطلح النينجا لونز، نو انكم نو جوبز نو اسيت لونز، والفاتحه مش حافظينها. واحد لا عنده دخل ثابت ولا عنده وظيفه ولا يمتلك اي حاجه غير حسن السيره والضمير الحي، لو يعني كان موجود ممكن يروح البنك برنس كده ويقول لهم بعد اذنك يا بنك انا عايز اشتري بيت بس مش معايا اي حاجه. البنك يقول له يا فندم ده احنا بنشتري راجل، اتفضل استريح اشرب قهوتك لحد ما الفلوس تجهز. اتفضل. بس يا عزيزي لا يخفى عليك البنوك مش بالطيبه دي، اللي هو اوه نو شاب مسكين مش قادر يبدا مستقبله، اما سبورت هيم بان انا اشتري له بيت وان شاء الله ربنا يكرمه ويقدر يدفعه لي، حتى لو ما دفعش مش مشكله يا شاب. خليني اقول لك يا عزيزي ان القروض دي كانت معموله بطريقه يتم خداع الناس فيها، ونسبه الفايده الحقيقيه اللي الواحد بيدفعها كانت بتبقى اكتر بكتير من البنك قال عليها في الاول، حاجه بتسمى بالبريداتوري ليندنج براكتس. والنتيجه ايه بقى؟ الاف من الناس اللي كانت واخده سب برايم لونز ما قدرتش تكمل سداد القرض، ديفولت بعد الشهر عنك بالديفولت. طبعا يا عزيزي الناس دي اللي ما قدرش تسدد قروضها البنك قام واخد البيت اللي عليه الرهان، هات يا ابني البيت عشان انت ما دفعتش. طب ايه ده؟ انا هعمل البيت ده ايه؟ هعرضه للبيع عشان اخد مكسبي والفلوس. حلو قوي يا ابو حميد، ما نبيع البيت وناخد فلوسنا ونكسب بقى، نشغل الشغل كده. طيب وقهوه عزيزي دي كانت بابل مع الزياده الكبيره في العرض اللي مش بيقابلها زياده في الطلب. ما هو فكر فيها، انت اديت لناس كتير ما عندهاش القدره انها تدفع، ما دفعتش فانت خدت البيوت، البنك مش هيحتفظ بالبيت، مش هيبقى انتيكه عنده، لازم يبيعه عشان ياخد فلوس معاه كاش ويستثمر في حاجات تانية. فبالتالي بنوك كتير بقى عندها بيوت كتير بتحاول تبيعها، لما ده يحصل يبقى عندك سبلاي اكبر بكتير من الديماند، فجاه الناس كلها بقت بتبيع بيوتها. فايه اللي يحصل؟ الاسعار تبدا تنزل والبابل تفرقع، والنتيجه انخفاض حاد جدا في اسعار العقارات. وهو في بيوت كتير جدا معروضه للبيع. في الفتره من 2006 ل 2010 متوسط سعر البيت في امريكا نزل بنسبه 30%. مش كده وبس، ده حتى الناس اللي كانت بتسدد فلوسها وتم التمام لقيت فجاه سعر البيت اللي هم واخدين قرض عشانه نزل. يعني انا واخد قرض بمليون والبيت النهارده قيمته 700,000 وانا هفضل ادفع على اساس ان البيت قيمته مليون. لا يا عم انا مش دافع، خدوا البيت احسن واخد قرض جديد. وده خلى طبعا العرض يزيد اكتر، ناس عماله تبيع بيوتها، والعرض لما يزيد السعر ينزل. في الوقت ده يا عزيزي المؤسسات الماليه اللي كانت بتشتري الديون زي بنوك الاستثمار اللي اتكلمنا عنها بطلت تشتري سب برايم لونز، وبالتالي البنوك اللي كانت بتسلف بقى معاها ديون بيوت مش عارفين يبيعوها، اللي ادى في الاخر يا عزيزي ان بنوك كتير اضطرت تشهر افلاسها. خليني اقول لك ان حوالي 75% من جهات التمويل العقاري اللي كانت موجوده في 2006 ما بقتش موجوده في 2011. 75% المستثمرين اللي حطوا فلوس بالمليارات في الام بي اس المورجج باك سكيورتيز ابتدوا يخسروا فلوسهم. ده لان الاستثمارات بتاعتهم مدعومه في الاساس بسوق العقار وقروض التمويل العقاري. فلما حصل الانهيار ده في اسعار العقارات والحيطه مالت حرفيا، انهارت كل الاوراق الماليه المدعومه بيها. بس انت كمستثمر هتقول لي استنى عندك، فاكر مانشستر يونايتد؟ انا كنت واخد بالي ومأمن على الاستثمار بتاعي وشاري سي دي اس. المفروض ده تأمين على فلوس، لو السوق انهار تعالى لي يا شركه التأمين صلحي لي الاستثمارات. الله، امال كنت بتاخدوا نسبه مني ليه؟ يلا صلحوا. عزيز انت مش حويط قوي. ايه ازاي؟ الحقيقه ان السي دي اس دي كانت غير منظمه من الدوله، نوت ريجوليتد. ايه ده يا ابو حميد؟ قصدك ايه بالكلام ده؟ فين فلوسي؟ ده انا ارفع عليك انا مالي انا يا عزيزي؟ الله، اخدت منك حاجه؟ شركات التأمين يا عزيزي ممكن تصدر سي دي اس حتى وهي معهاش فلوس تدفع حاجه، وكان اللي بيساعدهم في ده الكريدت ريتنج ايجنسيز. الجهات اللي كانت بتصدر سي دي اس كانوا ماشيين بمبدا سيبها لله يا عم، ما بتحرقش مؤمن هتحرق مؤمن. ولو حصل ان حد عايز التأمين بتاعه اكيد بقى مش هيجوا كلهم عايزين فلوسهم في نفس اللحظه. بس يا عزيزي يبدو ان هم كانوا غلطانين، لان ده اللي بيحصل وقت الازمات الاقتصاديه العالميه اللي بتؤدي لانهيار الشركات. في مارس 2008 بنك بير ستيرنز اعلن افلاسه، وبيجي بنك استثماري تاني اسمه جي بي مورجان يوافق يشتريه بسعر $2 للسهم وضمان من الحكومه ب $30 مليار. وفي سبتمبر 2008 بيعلن بنك ليمان براذرز اكبر افلاسه في التاريخ. البنك ده يا عزيزي كان احد اكبر البنوك الاستثماريه في العالم. بعدها يا عزيزي تبدا شركه AIG تنهار. دي الشركه اللي كانت المفروض تامن على الاستثمارات، ما عرفتش تامن نفسها، وتبدا من هنا ازمه عالميه هي الاعنف من بعد كساد 1930. ما بين 2008 ل 2010 امريكا بتخسر 8.8 مليون وظيفه بمعدل 712,000 وظيفه في الشهر الواحد. كل ده بين اكتوبر 2008 لمارس 2009. الخساره اللي تعرضت ليها الاسر الامريكيه بسبب نزول سعر العقارات والاسهم وضياع المدخرات، ده غير المعاشات وفقدان الوظائف. في الاربع سنين من 2006 ل 2010 10 مليون اسره يا عزيزي اتسحب منهم بيوتهم. 10 مليون. كل ده طبعا عشان ما قدروش يكملوا دفع الاقساط. فوركلوجرز في 2008 بس حصل 3.1 مليون حاله سحب. واحد من كل 54 بيت كان بيجي له انذار. حوالي 9 مليون امريكي فقدوا التامين الصحي بتاعهم. في 2008 بتقدر خسائر المعاشات الامريكيه ب $2.4 تريليون، اكتر من 80 ضعف اجمالي مبيعات شركه كوكاكولا سنه 2018. وما بين 2007 ل 2009 سوق الاسهم في امريكا بيحقق خسائر تقدر بحوالي $8 تريليون. نيويورك ستوك اكسشينج بيقدر النهارده ان في $17 مليار خسائر. نص بورصه نيويورك راحت تقريبا، اللي كانت بتقدر يا عزيزي ب 17 تريليون، قصيناها النص كده. انت عزيزي متخيل الرقم؟ عارف متخيل يعني ايه 17 تريليون دولار؟ ده قد الناتج القومي بتاع المانيا وانجلترا وفرنسا وايطاليا واليابان وكوريا الجنوبيه سنه 2017. وفي دراسه عملها البنك المركزي سنه 2018 بعد 10 سنين من الازمه، قالوا ان الازمه دي خسرت المواطن الامريكي $70,000. طبعا يا عزيزي تقول لي طب ما دي امريكا. اقول لك يا عزيزي الاقتصاد العالمي مرتبط ببعضه، والعالم بقى قريه صغيره. كان في جزء كبير من استثمارات MBS اللي هو المورجج باك سكيورتيز اللي هو بنقسم الديون ونبيعها ونعمل كده، كانت استثمارات اجنبيه. فبالتالي هنا الازمه ما اثرتش بس على امريكا، دي سمعت في العالم كله. الحكومه البريطانيه من 2008 لحد ديسمبر 2009 صرفت حوالي 850 مليار استرليني، يعني 1.1 تريليون دولار عشان تنقذ القطاع المالي في بريطانيا. في 10 اكتوبر 2008 تخسر بورصه لندن حوالي 90 مليار استرليني في يوم واحد. في سنغافوره الدوله اللي تعدادها حوالي 5 مليون، مؤسسات الاستثمار التابعه للحكومه بتخسر حوالي 80 مليار دولار. ده عزيز صندوق النقد يوم ما يعني بيشغل الجيب وبيدي بال10 مليار دولار وبيذل الدول عليها. عندك في الصين اكتر من 20 مليون عامل خسروا شغلهم في 2009 بسبب الركود وقله الطلب على السلع. ما الصين دي يا عزيزي بتبيع شغلها لمين؟ مش بتبيع اكيد لامريكا، مش بتبيع اكيد لانجلترا، مش بتبيع اكيد لسنغافوره، الدول اللي احنا قلنا ان هي اتاثرت. كله بيتاثر بقى. 20 مليون عامل ده يا عزيزي يعني قد سنغافوره 4 مرات. وبعد ما الازمه حصلت يا عزيزي الناس كانت عايزه تفهم ايه السبب، ايه اللي ودانا لده، ومين المسؤول عن كل ده. والحقيقه ان جهات كتير بتتحمل مسؤوليه اللي حصل، وانه حصل بالحده دي. بنوك الاستثمار توسعت في شراء السب برايم لونز. فاكر يا عزيزي دي الديون اللي كانوا بيدوها لناس ما عندهاش بقى مرتبات ثابته وما عندهاش شغلانات. بس الفكره يا عزيزي ان دي الحاجات اللي كانت فايدتها كبيره فكان فيها مكسب اعلى. مش بس كده، دول كانوا بيدوا الحاجات دي هاي ريتنج، لان هم اللي كانوا بيدفعوا للريتنج ايجنسيز دول. دي فاكر يا عزيزي الايجنسيز اللي كانت بتقيم، اللي هو ده تريبل اي، ده تريبل سي، لا ده BB. فاكر الحاجات دي؟ هم اللي كانوا بيدفعوا لهم فلوس عشان يدوا التقييمات على الاستثمارات دي. فالورق ورقنا والدفاتر دفاترنا. وبنوك الاستثمار بقى بتتعامل مع موضوع زي قفص القوطه، اللي هو وش القفص المستوي الحلو ده وتحت بقى كل الطماطم المضروبه البايظه، وبيع القفص بقى على انها حمراء وجميله طماطم. والريتنج ايجنسي مأكده لي يعني، وهتقول لك انها حمراء وجميله وبسمسم دي طماطم. سيمسي. بس الحقيقه يا عزيزي ان بنوك الاستثمار عملت حاجه اصيع من كده كمان. هي مش بس باعت لك استثمارات خسرانه على انها حلوه، دي كمان وشوف دي بقى رهنت على ان الاستثمار بتاعك هيخسر، حاجه اسمها شورت سيلينج، وكسبت فلوس فعلا لما استثمارك خسر. يعني انا كده يا عزيزي كبنك استثماري اديتك على قفاك مرتين. تخيل بعت لك جزمه فيها عيوب على اساس انها جزمه شغاله زي الفل، وقلت لك روح اجري بيها يا عم، وبعد كده قمت مميل على واحد جنبي وقلت له تراهن الواد اللي بيجري بجزمه حلوه ده هيقع على كام؟ على كذا. طب ماشي وقع، هات الفلوس يا اسطى. فانا كده كسبت فلوس لما بعت الجزمه للراجل، وكسبت فلوس لما راهنت على ان الراجل ده هيقع بيها لانها جزمه مش كويسه وانا عارف. طبعا يا عزيزي الموضوع لم يكن بالجزم، الموضوع كان بالمليارات، ما كانش بالهيافه اللي انا بقولها دي. المراهنه دي يا عزيزي كمان كانت بتتم من خلال CDS اللي هي فاكر قلنا انها ايه؟ وثيقه تامين على الاستثمار. بس الحقيقه ان كان في حاجه في CDS مختلفه شويه عن التامين العادي. يعني انا مثلا لو رحت اشتريت عربيه فطبيعي ان انا بس كصاحب عربيه اللي ينفع امن عليها، بالتالي لو عربيتي دي اتسرقت ولا عملت حادثه شركه تامين تدفع لي ثمن العربيه. بس مش طبيعي ان واحد تاني غيري يامن العربيه بتاعتي، ولو انا عربيتي اتسرقت شركه تامين تعوضه هو. لو ربنا يعوض عليك، ربنا يعوض عليك. طب وانا ده بالظبط اللي كان بيحصل في CDS. اي حد ممكن يامن على اي استثمار، فبالتالي لو العربيه مش عربيتي بس انا مامن عليها هبقى عايزها تتسرق عشان اخد قيمه التامين. يا ولاد اللذينه، ده ايه ده؟ ده ايه اللي بتعملوه ده؟ مش ممكن، دي اختراعات ماليه يا عزيزي. هناك فاينانشال انجينيرنج. كان يا عزيزي كمان بيتم تداول CDS دول في اسواق المال زي اسهم الشركات. فانا لو متوقع ان الاستثمار ده مثلا هيخسر اروح شاري CDS يامني ضده، ولما يخسر اخد فلوس التامين. وبنوك الاستثمار عملت كده، باعت للناس سب برايم لونز وكسبت النسبه بتاعتها العاديه، وقامت رايحه شاريه CDS بتراهن بيها ضد الاستثمارات دي. وكانت مورجان ستانلي بتراهن ضدها في نفس الوقت. صحفي اسمه جريج جوردن نشر مقاله في 2009 كشفت ازاي جولدمان ساكس كانوا بيبيعوا استثمارات متصممه ان كل ما العملاء بتوعهم يخسروا اكتر كل ما جولدمان تعمل فلوس اكتر. المراهنه ضد الاستثمارات في وقت ما كان بيكسب اكتر من بيع الاستثمارات نفسها، لدرجه ان هم ابتدوا يخلقوا لونز جديده، قروض جديده، بس بهدف المكسب اللي هيجي من ورا الرهان ضدها. ايه ده؟ ايه ده؟ ايه يا جولد مان؟ الناس دي كانت مراهنه على فشلك من اول لحظه عشان يراهنوا على فشلك ويكسبوا. تسألني وتقول لي يا ابو حميد الناس دي بقى بعد الجشع واللي عملوه ده كله اتحاسبوا ازاي؟ الحقيقه يا عزيزي ان الحكومه الامريكيه عشان ما تفشلش والدوله كلها بقى تفلس والناس كلها تبقى عاطله كانت لازم تنقذ الناس دي. المؤسسات دي يا عزيزي اللي كانت بتاخد بقى القروض وتشتريها وتبيعها وتجزأها وتراهن على فشلها كانت تو بيج تو فيل، حجمها كبير قوي لدرجه ان هي لو فشلت هنفشل كلنا معاها، ما ينفعش تفشل. فكان لازم الكونجرس الامريكي يديلها فلوس عشان تقدر تكمل والاقتصاد كله ما ينهارش. انتهت يا عزيزي حكاية الأزمة الاقتصادية ل 2008 واللي كانت على وشك إنها تقضي على أقوى اقتصاد في العالم. أنا بحكي لك الحكاية دي ليه يا عزيزي؟ لأن نموذج أزمة 2008 ده نموذج للأزمات الاقتصادية. فكرة الأزمة الاقتصادية اللي فيها أصول اقتصادية بتفقد جزء من قيمتها وقيمة الفلوس دي بتنقص، فتصحى الصبح تلاقي نفسك خسرت فلوس من غير ما تكون عملت أي حاجة. فيمكن لما نفهم أزمة 2008 نقدر نفهم بشكل عام يعني إيه أزمة اقتصادية. بس الحقيقة يا عزيزي كل اللي أقدر أنصحك بيه هو إن طبعا حاجة زي التقسيط لطيفة وجميلة وبتساعد ان احنا يبقى عندنا الحاجات دي بدل ما هنحتاج العمر كله نحوش لها عشان نجيبها وما نلحقش نستفيد بيها. بس اختار صح واختار الحاجات المهمة فعلا بالنسبة لك، لان انت ممكن قدام ما تكونش حمل الدين ده، فاختار بعناية شديدة. تاني حاجة يا عزيزي ان البنك الفيدرالي الامريكي رفع الفايدة وكثير من بنوك العالم رفعوا الفايدة، فده معناه يا عزيزي ان احنا غالبا في السنتين الجايين دول ممكن ان يكون هناك ركود اقتصادي، وممكن لا مش دعوة ما اعرفش، بس الاحتمالات بتقول ان ممكن ان يكون هناك ركود، لان ركود يعني ممكن نخسر شغلنا، شركات تسرح حماله عشان مش قادره تعمل مش عارف ايه. فربنا يستر يا عزيزي علينا، ارجوك خد بالك من التقسيط. اخيرا وليس اخيرا بس شوف الحلقات اللي فاتت، شوف الحلقات اللي جايه، تبص على المصادر، رحنا على اليوتيوب، نشترك في القناه.
Choose from thousands of realistic voices to use in your content. Change the way you record podcasts, voiceovers, and branded content with the #1 AI-powered voice generating technology. Stop searching for the perfect voice and stop wasting time re-recording take after take. Try 11 Labs for free and start elevating your content today.
المسألة اللي بغيت نناقش معاك هو من غير الهزيمة الساحقة والمستحقة هو الحضور المكتف ديال
خلي بالك الاختيار اللي هتعمله هيحدد ايه اللي